Hi, we're going to try you on the cell.
Okay.
We can't seem to. All right, you're
Thanks,
here.
Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, we're going to call the meeting to order at 7:05. Thank you for coming. Do we have any, first of all, I should note that the meeting is being recorded. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments? All right, one at a time. All right, so we want to review and approve minutes. So we need to roll call vote the policy subcommittee minutes for September 18th, October 10th, and November 5th. So do we want to do them one at a time or all together? I mean, or, yeah. All right, so would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th. Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
These are the policy,
The policy meeting.
so the non-policy people don't vote them, right?
Yeah, we can't approve, we all approve because we can't do it in the policy
Oh, okay,
meetings.
got it, okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Modell, aye?
Lear, aye.
Eva, aye. Eva, Mustafi, aye. Lavery, aye.
Okay, and the same for, we need a motion to accept the minutes from October 10th?
Oh, I will make a motion to accept the minutes from October 10th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Roll call vote.
Modell, aye?
Sarah?
Both aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye. Lavery, aye.
Okay, and do I hear a motion to accept the policy subcommittee meeting minutes for November 5th?
I make a motion to accept the subcommittee policy meetings of November 5th.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Modell, aye?
Both aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye. Lavery, aye.
Okay, and then we want to, a motion to approve the school committee meeting minutes of October 16th. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the school committee meetings of October 16th.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
I provided a few minor grammar and punctuation comments. I won't bother the committee with them if we're okay with that.
No, that's great, thank you. All right.
And if we could also just do a roll call vote to take the, that was the one thing we didn't do a roll call vote in the last meeting on the minutes of September 11th.
September 11th.
So
For this meeting or?
just in terms of those minutes, I just want to reflect that everyone
Okay,
voted by roll call.
that's September 11th. Okay, we'll do that next. Okay, so roll call vote on accepting the minutes of October 16th.
Modell, aye?
Both aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye. Lavery, aye.
Okay, and then we're going to go back, and can I hear a motion to accept the minutes from the school committee on September 11th?
Motion to accept the meeting notes from September 11th.
Second?
Modell, second.
Discussion. Roll call vote.
Modell, aye?
Both aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye. Lavery, aye.
I'm getting really good at this. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the school committee meeting minutes of October 30th?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I second.
Discussion. Okay, roll call vote.
Modell, aye?
Both aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye. Lavery, aye.
Okay, we're good. You read? Oh, all right. Thank you. That was so much fun, David. Okay.
I don't ruin your fun.
Thank you. All right, so first I think we have a presentation by the fabulous sixth grader.
You want to do a roll call vote? See if I can figure this out.
They're going to think about that when they're on a committee
All
someday.
right, Ms. Spray, do you mind putting in your password? Great. Thank you. Let me turn my
Oh, hi.
I'm here with several of our sixth grade students, and they're going to share with all of us their experiences from outdoor ed. A little bit about the program. I'll introduce it, and then the students here are going to tell you works. Am I doing wrong?
Sarah,
There
can you
it is.
hear?
Great, so we went up to, she here?
I'm moving her down here.
Great. So we went up to the Sergeant Center in Hancock, New Hampshire, which if you're familiar with like the Mount Monadnock region of southern New Hampshire, that's right where it was. The weather was okay, we made the best of it. And the program of outdoor ed, it is associated loosely with Nature's Classroom, if you're familiar with that institution. You can see the 5 core aspects here: team building, cooperative learning, an opportunity for leadership, setting individual challenges, and you guys can talk to your challenges and how you overcame them. The 4 C's, which is part of our character education piece that our 6th grade team of teachers really embraces and builds upon. And then the ultimate goal is taking what they learned and applying it here in Carlisle. So guys, feel free to share us, what is this? What's going on here?
So we are loading baggage from the buses, and we had to work as a team to line up and pass luggage from one person to another. If one person stops doing that, then the whole line gets backed up and people have to wait, and then they start doing it again.
What I found interesting is that at the beginning, it was like a big mess, but at the end, we kind of had it under control doing it. So that was interesting.
All right. What about here? In terms of program goals, I see somebody up there with a, what is that?
This is a sign that says ORT, so this was one of our first meals, and we were doing a demonstration about what ORT is, and ORT is, somebody has the picture, wasn't it?
Okay, so I went to a summer camp that had ORT as well, and we called it Our Remaining Tidbits.
So it's like leftover food that you had after you had finished your meal, and every meal we would weigh how much ORT we had left over.
ORT is not a good thing. You want to eat all of your ORT because ORT is wasted food.
We were really bad at it.
But you use data to get better, right? What did they do with the ORT when you were done?
Threw it away.
All right, let me rephrase that, you're right. How did you know that you were bad at it or that?
They weighed it again.
We were told what the weight was.
And then we put it on a graph to see how.
You tracked it over
Oh,
time.
God.
I think our lowest was like 3.4 pounds.
Our highest was 6 pounds.
No, it was 10 pounds.
Oh yeah,
And that's cumulative over every meal, right?
Well, that includes milk, so.
No.
All right, what are we looking at here?
This is one of the groups who were working together to do one of the challenges. The instructor was talking about why we needed to do this and how we were going to apply some of the 4 C's.
For those of us that have no idea, what
What
are
are
the 4
those?
C's?
The 4 C's are commitment, cooperation, communication, and care.
Okay, and then in this one here, what's going on?
This is us putting the dishes in racks so that they can be clean. After every meal, there's like a little group of kids that will help do all this, and there will be, the waiters will take up the trays of dishes and give them to these people.
So each group, every group had to do a chore. Not every group had to do it every day. So it'd be chosen, like what your group would be chosen at least once. So here we have sweeping inside. We've had sweeping outside and doing the dishes.
Here was fire building. It was part of the thing we did outside in the woods, and we would do fire building and shelter building. We use flint and steel though.
And here's a picture, it looks like somebody's shelter.
Yeah, this is one of the shelters. It was not completely waterproof.
One of the challenges that we had to complete was Canoe Odyssey, where we had to use lashing techniques to create a catamaran that held our counselors. And they didn't want to get wet, so we had to do that well.
Did any of the counselors fall off?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So then
We had a flag.
what did you do once you lashed the canoes together?
We had
We
to,
had to successfully coordinate our paddling.
And we had-
Whee!
we had to paddle around the lake looking for clues to a sentence and then unscramble the sentence. That was interesting.
I heard one group had to make it so that 2 counselors could fit on it.
Yeah, we were next to that group and we were like, they talked for a long time about how to do it and we were off by the time they started doing it. And then they built 2 of them. I was like, okay.
My group had a flag, so that was fun.
Oh, and here you guys are.
Oh, wow.
Which group is it?
I don't know, but I think they seem like they're coordinated, so they probably are coming back.
Counselor doesn't look wet.
All right, let's talk about the high ropes course. What were your guys' experiences with that? And I know it depended on if you went in the morning or the afternoon because it was pouring in the morning.
In the morning, it was cold and rainy and wet, but it was fun when you went on. There were some people that unfortunately decided not to do it because it was cold and rainy and wet, and they had a lesser experience. But it was fun when you went on.
My experience was so I had to wait onto like a log while the person in front of me went. That gave me a lot of time to think about what was actually going on and being aware of my surroundings. And I really was scared, but it was worth it at the end when we got to go down a big zip line and all your fears went away.
Luckily for me, I was the first person to go, so I got in line quickly. And then I went up and it was very cold at the top, which I found out. And then I went down the zip line and it was really fun. Totally worth the cold.
Also cold when you were going down the zip line.
Also
It's
cold
always
while you
cold.
were waiting for everybody else to go.
Also cold when you finish the zip line.
I also did it, and I was petrified of it. Getting up to the top, this was on that very windy nor'easter day, the platform when you're on top was moving. And I was not ready for that mentally at all. And I wanted to get down that zip line as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But it was fun. So what about the people that were on the ground? Can you share us what's going on here?
So there were some ropes connecting to some of the challenges on the ropes course. There were different routes on the ropes course, and one of them, or a couple of them, had ropes where you could interact with the people going on it and make it easier or harder for them.
Did any of you do the caterpillar one with the logs?
I
Was
did.
that hard for you?
It wasn't too hard with the people helping, so there were like beams, and then a beam, and then a beam, and then the ropes would pull the beams closer together so that you could actually get across easier. And it was kind of hard to do it because the beams were long and I'm not long.
Well said. All right. And what about the journal writing?
In the journals, we would write down our experiences and our feelings about it. Because after the ropes course, you really experience and feel a lot. So the counselor would let us write, the main counselor, he would let us write in this yellow book, and he had many of these that went by, and he would share the really big ones. And so some students, they wrote in it how they felt. I was one of them. Wasn't considered a good one, but I wrote in it.
That's great. All right, Pioneer Village.
This one was one of my favorite activities. It was making Johnny cakes together, and there was like a little a fire with a grate over it, and you would have to mix together the ingredients for the Johnny cakes and then cook them. It was fun.
Some students, they weren't able to make the Johnny cakes because a small group were, so they made stuff like popcorn by hand.
Here's a couple pictures. Did you do woodworking?
Yeah, this is woodworking, like where you would strip bark off of a tree and we would split logs.
That was
We were
terrifying.
also able to make pegs.
Oh yeah, you would make pegs. There's a little metal hole, and you would punch the wood through the hole, and
Yeah,
it would come out as a peg.
I had to hold one of those things while my partner would slam. So I had to hold the peg. I got hit in the finger back in the
What about blacksmithing? All right, what was fun about it?
We got to hold long rods in a fire for a long period of time, and then bend them.
Did you guys make the hooks?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
made like little
And
hooks.
then we straightened them out and then flattened them if we had enough time.
But it was warm.
The fire was cold. Everything else was cold.
And then talk about the 4 Cs on the last day, because,
Oh, God.
so this was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday morning, why don't you talk about the ending activity?
Well, on this day, the last day, we were doing this thing called Sergeant Center, which was Sergeant Challenge, which is basically where our groups would have to go in a certain order, and we would have a starting point that we had to start in. And we'd go in an order, and our goal was to finish all of them. My group personally did not. We got into a fight.
Yeah, it was a bunch of stations that you would have to get to, but you only had a map, and none of us were really good at using maps, so.
So we tried to figure out who was the best at maps and distribute the map, the skill of being able to find where you're going. And some people did that better than others. And you would go around and find the activities at the location where they were on the map. And if you didn't complete the activity, you could either leave and come back, or some of the activities you only got one shot.
Cool.
Yeah, so one of my favorite ones of those activities was a fire building one where you had to light a cotton ball on fire in 30 seconds with a flint and steel rod. That was fun.
Didn't the bear beat you?
Yeah, there was a long story about like you got stranded on a trail because you took the wrong trail and then got lost on that trail. and then you had to build a fire because there was a bear circling you.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Oh.
I got to light the fire. No. That
So-
wasn't bad.
One thing I want to point out is, so this is a wonderful 4-day activity with students in a totally different experiential learning environment, but it does carry over to what we do in the classroom. And you can see here's a rubric, and you guys have seen this probably in your classrooms before. It's up, I know, in Mr. Gale's room and Mr. Zuckerman's room, and as the 4 C's: cooperation, commitment, communication, and care, and caring. And it gets into our character education piece that our 6th grade teachers use in the classroom to support our kids. So, outstanding job presenting and sharing your experiences. Are there any questions? Mr. McDonald?
Thank you, guys. So on that rubric, this is, have the students generated that, or that is the inbound sort of rules of, or expectations of the
It was
students?
more like a goal for us. It was more like a goal for us to be able to use all of that throughout our experience and for on.
We did not set this goal.
And you've been back in school about a month since?
Yeah.
So tell me how, as that month, have you been able to carry those lessons into your month, this last month in the classroom?
Personally, I have. I do not know about these two.
I don't know about those two either.
What about you two?
I think that I did some of them better than others, like
Fair enough.
communication.
Yeah.
Turn back on.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, very much.
Thank you.
That's good.
So, thank you.
Good job.
Very nice
Good
work.
idea. We should do this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Righty done.
keep your mind while we're doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so that was the highlight of the meeting. Everybody can go home.
Good night, everyone, thanks for coming. So, Sarah, is there any chance that you are ready to present the CEF grants? Is she there?
Yes, there's a little bit of, there's the ones that are presented, and those are all good. And then in addition, there's one tool, we've taken on the one for Rachel Levy for the iPads and 5 large text crayons.
Oh, from the PTO?
Yes.
Okay.
So the CEF will cover 4 iPads and 5 large text crayons. And I think I Carlisle specifically.
it's
Yeah, someone on that vote. And then there's one more that we were waiting to finalize some of the details, for Valerie Ford requesting funding for an acapella and electronic music workshop.
Yeah.
We've got 2 assemblies for the elementary and middle school each, plus an after class for dance choir and other middle school singers interested in learning more about acapella, all led by the Choctaw Group, Choctaw Shadow, and that program will cost $1,500. And then everything else is as written out.
Okay.
Just total,
Pardon me?
just have total.
Well, so here it's,
You gotta add
We're gonna add
1,600 and 1,400, right? So like $3,000 more than the
yeah,
14, so
Yeah.
like 17,000, around 17,000.
yeah.
Yeah, around 30 long numbers.
The numbers are all there, Sue,
Yeah.
if you want to get the exact. All right, so do
The
we
films
vote for this
results.
as is, or do we?
I think we can vote as presented by Sarah.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to accept the CEF grants as outlined by Sarah Wilson on the phone?
I move to accept with gratitude,
Yes.
channeling my inner Josh, the CEF grants as outlined by Sarah and written in the packet.
Okay. I'll second. Any discussion?
You can't second.
I can't second.
I second.
Jeez. Any discussion?
Just a great thank you.
Yes, a
Thank you,
huge
yes.
thank you, Sarah, to everyone over there at the CEF.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
With roll call.
oh, roll call vote, sorry.
Modell, I. Wilson.
Can I vote on this one?
Oh, yeah, you
Or do
can.
I abstain? Okay.
Lear, aye.
Okay.
Mustafi, aye. Labrie, aye.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and so now we can move on to Carrie with the PTO grants. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. You guys have the list, right?
Correct?
So just as Sarah pointed out, which I think somebody, I think that was you, who kind of made the comment on the 4 iPads. Originally, Rachel Levy's grant was for an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil. And there was a lot of back and forth between Sarah, who's got crayons, Logitech, I think, correct, Sarah? I don't know if she can hear me.
Yeah, this is owned by Apple.
Yeah, for Chow Bing, so with Scott and Rachel, and the CEF, they were already buying those crowns for Chow Bing, so they're like, we'll buy the crowns for Rachel, which then we decided that with the money we'd already granted her, that we would buy her extra iPads to go with those pencils. And then the CEF graciously said, well,
They'll cover.
we'll cover all of that. So that one, number 4 on our list is off. So we are granted a total of 7 grants then, for a total of $4,100 approximately. And I'll get those final numbers too. Because we did have another one, Go Noodle Plus, that we originally granted for 15, but then there was a fall promotion, and because it was only supposed to, well, they had only asked for 3. First grade asked for Go Noodle Plus. And for 900, we could get the whole school for the rest of the year on Go Noodle Plus. So, and since that's used by, at least I know it's used heavily by the elementary school grades, that was what we went for. Any questions about the grants?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome, thank you.
So do we have a motion to accept the grants from the PTO as Carrie described?
I make a motion to accept the grants as described by Carrie with gratitude.
Second.
Sarah seconded. Discussion.
No, thank you again.
Roll call vote?
Modell, I.
Wilson, I.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye. Labrie, aye.
We are just screaming through this. Carrie, thank you so much. All
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yes.
right, so while we're accepting things, Sue, do you want to talk about the printer? Oh, we'll talk about the
Either way,
printer.
so,
Sorry.
We also had a parent who donated an Epson expression photo printer to our preschool. So with appreciation, that is Sesha Gady donated the print. And Ms. Shannon was happy to have it. Got integrated into our system.
Voting now. voting out.
But they were waiting to open it until it was accepted by the
Okay.
committee.
All right, so I'm out of order, but we're going to vote on this now. Would you like to make a motion to accept the printer for the kindergarten? Preschool?
I will second that motion to accept the printer.
Discussion. So, I think
Eva,
Shannon's,
and Shannon second.
and Evan did, okay. So roll call vote,
Modell, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye?
Lively, aye.
All right, excellent. Okay, so Amoresco is supposed to be here at 8:40, we're ahead. And then Jonathan will do the, so should we start with the, with G, the school improvement plan?
Yep.
Yeah, and those guys can, yeah.
Appreciate that.
See, it's a good night to be alive.
Young kids at home. They all have kids at home.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of cords here. Try that.
Sarah, I'm gonna move you back down the other end of the room again.
Yeah, I can't hear anything, thank you.
Okay, well, nothing's happened, so that's good. If you were hearing stuff, then we'd be worried.
Here we go. Thank you. All right, so thank you. Dr. Seidel and I will be presenting our school improvement plan. A couple things about the plan that I just want to point out before we get into really the content and the substance of it is the format is different than in years past, and that's done with some deliberate intent, but then also with an eye for the future. This is a one-year plan, and we've deliberately done a one-year plan largely because there is some visioning work that's concurrent this year, and we want to be informed by the outcomes of the visioning work for our school improvement plan going forward. In the future, we've talked as recently as this afternoon in our school advisory council about the need to create a multi-year, 3-year plan going forward. We've also talked in our school advisory council with parents and teachers to review the format and then review other school improvement plan formats from other schools in the surrounding communities. If you notice, the format of our plan, our current plan, which is a one-year plan, is we have the left column, the goals, the implementation steps, and then the indicators of progress. And we have selected 3 district objectives, and they're all aligned to the district plan. So the first goal I want to drive you to is, actually, let's jump back if we could. A couple things in general about the school improvement plan is we looked at some themes that were throughout the school improvement plan. Professional learning, you'll see a lot of language around how we support kids and how we support kids differently. So this multi-tiered system of supports. Digital literacy and citizenship comes up, project-based learning, again, social emotional learning, access and equity and special education and creativity. So these are the themes that if you take a couple steps back and you look at the school improvement plan, it's kind of what we're trying to get at. And then the indicators of progress vary depending on what we're looking at, but it does include implementation of the programs, teaching methodologies, some formal data such as MCAS, but then also some classroom data and intervention data as well that we have begun to look at. So the first objective for the district, provide a rich, rigorous, and relevant curriculum which ensures students develop academic and intellectual skills along with the social and emotional competencies to be confident, engaged, and successful global citizens in the 21st century. So that is the umbrella by which we then try to align these 3 school improvement goals. The first one here is to implement a research-based curriculum and assessments to ensure that students develop academic and intellectual skills aligned to the various grade level standards. The implementation steps, we were very specific here to look at literacy, and we've implemented a new BAS in grades 1 and 3. And actually, I don't know if you want to talk
So you're going to do yours first, and then I'm going to.
Okay, go down order. And then in math, we have realigned units of instruction, and we've also implemented the ALEX, which is a universal screener for students in grades 5 through 8. That is our tier 2. And then executive functioning as well.
Okay. So in the lower grades, last year we piloted a new upgraded BAS, which is our benchmark assessment system that we use in literacy. We've used that for several years, and they upgraded it, and we wanted to pilot to see if we liked the upgrade and thought it was worth moving forward. So in second grade, they piloted last year. It was all around comprehension and stronger comprehension questions, which we really liked. So this year we're implementing in first grade and third grade, and then next year we'll move to K and fourth, so moving out from that. Also in math, we are using everyday math. Leslie Yanka, the math specialist, and I over the last couple of years have been looking for other programs for a couple of reasons. One, we don't think the spiral works as well as it should. Secondly, it's a heavy language program. So for some of our kids who are struggling in literacy, they're also struggling somewhat in math. And so we felt we wanted to look at other programs. We were hoping that with a national curriculum that some of the companies would kind of jump on and we'd have a beautiful new program presented that would really meet all our needs. That hasn't happened yet. But we are researching, so I've contacted 16 other districts to see what they're using. And there's many programs being used, so we're really looking now at specific programs to meet our needs, and we'll be doing that over this year. Yes?
So Ms. Yanka is not doing that this year?
This year,
right? So
correct.
how are you
So
managing that?
I'm taking that place for this year,
Okay.
and then our math specialist will be back next year. So I'm taking the
So
lead
you're
on
actually
that.
directly teaching?
Sorry?
You're directly teaching students?
So no, we actually have someone, Lucy O'Connor, who is actually doing direct instruction this year, and then I'm overseeing her for that. And for the math program, and because of everyday math, we've also realigned all of the lessons. So we've realigned the units as well as the order of lessons because we wanted a traditional approach for the lessons, but yet how we teach it is not as traditional. But everyday math, it's kind of this circular spiral that, okay, we hit it there, then if you don't get it, wait a year, it'll come back again. And we found for some kids we needed more days teaching about the same thing. So the teachers have done a lot of work realigning in the grades, and so we're ready for this year, but looking to go in the next 2 or 3 years into a new program if we find one that's really suitable for our needs. And then we had a teacher go to a professional development and came back with an executive functioning screener for younger grades. So we are also looking to do that this year in pre-K and K, and seeing what information that gives us that our teachers then can focus some of their lessons on helping kids in the planning and their growth of executive functioning. So the second one is to continue the integration of technology to support curriculum, teaching, and learning in Carlisle Public Schools. We've done a lot of integration over the last few years. Our focus this year in elementary is global connections. So we really would like to have opportunities for our students in different grade levels to connect with children in other countries. And so Nick Greenwood, our technology integration specialist, is taking the lead on that. We have some good things that Maya Berry already does, but we'd like to build more on that to give kids more opportunity to connect. We also have a new information system that Nancy, Scott, and Amy have worked on, Power School. And so we are also bringing all our information as well as our report cards over into that system. So that's taking a lot of time and work. And then Seesaw, which is what elementary is using to communicate to parents. We did it last year, and this year we're continuing because we have had a great response from parents. So teachers can videotape, they can record, and then send it directly to parents. So because we're not a big paper and pencil school, we wanted to give parents the opportunity to see what's happening in the classroom. And so in a given week, we have anywhere from 200 to 500 posts from teachers, and we actually have more parents who are coming on to look and make comments. So that's been a really great way to communicate and have parents kind of see what's happening in the classroom.
2 other examples in terms of tech integration, and it does piggyback on the implementation of this research-based curriculum. Is middle school, we did universal screening for all students in literacy, specifically reading, using Star Renaissance. And I met with the English language arts teachers, and we reviewed the data about how students did at each proficiency level, and that allowed teachers to use the flex blocks in our new middle school schedule to flexibly group students to provide timely interventions. based on that. Yeah.
How did the findings for that compare to the MCAS findings?
It's directly correlated not only to MCAS, it's by the kid by the standard, but also to Common Core. I will say anecdotally, our teachers, it bolstered our teachers' confidence in using Star Renaissance because it directly aligned. And they went, wow, this mirrors MCAS. So it was reinforcing.
And sorry, can you tell me just a little bit, I know you have a lot to go through, but I just want to know, so why this additional assessment then? If it's mirroring MCAS, what more added value does it give?
It's timely, it's a progress monitoring tool, it's quicker. We have
it's many times?
Yeah, you can do it repeatedly.
Right.
So the idea is it was a baseline.
Okay.
We looked at students' data and responses in real time, met as an English department, looked at it. We've been partnering with Kathy Macklis, our reading specialist, to look at the data. She's actually provided some training for some of our English teachers in the middle school to dig deeper into it, to do richer interventions with our students. Parallel to that, we've also done very similar screening, but with a tool called ALEX, and that's for math, and that's adaptive technology where students then take the test and it identifies students that need intervention, and we support them, but then they can do follow-up work, and the program has some adaptive technology so that kids, if they struggle, then it meets them at the need that they're demonstrating. If the kids are really achieving at a higher level, then it adapts and provides more challenging work.
So you're really describing an RTI.
This is RTI, and we're going to bring this up later with our tier 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
We're in this area, we're talking about more research and research-based curriculum, but it all kind of dovetails together. Yeah. Also, under this district objective, our third goal is to explore opportunities to integrate project-based learning, PBL, to foster student-centered innovation and creativity in the Carlisle Public Schools. As you recall from the last school committee meeting, we had some 8th graders present the cardboard challenge. That's just one example of it. Other things over the summer, what we've done is the middle school teachers read a series of books. The book Launch I shared with you, as well as Innovator's Mindset, project-based learning. Last year and into the summer, we read the book What Schools Could Be, and we're exploring opportunities to learn more about the Rivers and Revolutions curriculum at Concord Carlisle High School, perhaps partnering with them to bring some of that into grade 5. So those are just some of the examples.
I'm raising my hand a lot. I see here for your indication of progress on the PBL that you got curated and shared success with ongoing examples. Is that a resource that we might be able to see? Is it on a website or?
So in terms of curating, we're bringing them to you. So that would be one example. We brought the fifth.
Okay, so there's not like some big repository, you just,
no, and we're also
on a
trying
monthly
to,
basis, you're bringing them as a, okay, got it, all right. Thanks.
Good question. Okay, I think we jumped ahead. If you go back, I think we're under district objective 2.
Yep,
Okay,
sorry.
Yep. So our second district objective, this theme is more social emotional learning, but it's to build a community of inclusion which understands and accepts and embraces diversity, where all students feel known, cared for, welcome, respected, and enjoy their educational experience. And one area of our goal, our school improvement goal, is to align the professional learning for Carlisle Public Schools educators to address the needs of students so that students can feel supported, known, and cared for. In this area, we are focusing a little bit at the elementary level and UDL, and Dr. Shelley, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So universal design learning is our big umbrella focus this year for elementary, and there's a lot of pieces to it, but if I kind of break it down, it's really looking at how we introduce, how we practice, and how we assess. So it's giving multiple ways that we're introducing new information, multiple materials that kids can use to practice and learn, and then different ways to assess. It also looks at giving kids student choice throughout their learning process, and as well as looking at barriers. So what barriers exist now in the classroom, and how can we identify them and remove them for different students? So we have an all-day training for elementary on the 11th of December. And we've had a training last year and been talking in our grade level teams about how we're going to bring these elements. Many of them exist, but now we want it to be from K all the way, from actually pre-K all the way up. Yes?
So could you give us some examples of how this program works? What
So,
resources are
Sure,
used
so
and-
I will give you an example of universal design. So for instance, in second grade, they do what's called Genius Hour. So every child can choose what project they would like to invest their time, and they also have say in the process and how they're gonna present that to the rest of the class. So each of those things has student voice with support, but the skill base is similar across of what kids are learning as far as how to research, how to document what they're finding, how to present, but what they're doing and how is a little different. Okay, does that answer your question? That's just one example.
Could you speak to also to practicing literacy in that setting as well?
Okay, so for instance, in literacy, even the balanced literacy that we do, that kind of is UDL because students are doing different things at the same time. So in small group instruction, we have some kids who might be doing Lexia, other kids who are doing partner reading or independent reading, other kids are meeting with the teacher, and then each group that the teacher meets with, their focus or what materials they're using might be a little different.
At the middle school, we're focusing the professional development, which is more on our tiered system of supports. So as I said earlier, our English teachers are meeting with our reading specialists, and recently they did a team day on LLI. So they're using the resources that we have in-house and the expertise of each other and collaborating to really get to know kids at a deeper level to provide interventions now that time is available on the schedule.
So this is for the kids on IEPs, or this is for
All kids.
all kids,
All kids.
right? All kids
Yep.
get access to help and the educators
Yeah.
get to know them closely what their needs are.
Yes.
Exactly. And I can speak to that when we get into the different tiers and most of that.
So also we are doing some training, and Lori's doing some training this year with paraprofessionals. So that's another thing that we wanted to continue to bolster each year is our assistants in the classrooms are major key players, and we want to give them as much information and knowledge as we can to help with our kids. So that's a really nice piece that's continuing this year. Lori, is there any other pieces that you want to talk about?
Did you?
We're doing literacy training, so we'll do a training specifically on what dyslexia looks like and how it can look different with different students, and how everybody, whether you work as a PE teacher, an English teacher, a science teacher, regardless of the grades, that there's certain things that you can put into place to support students like that, whether it be based on their receptive and expressive language challenges or their actual schoolwork.
Is that internal training, or are you going outside and getting?
That's
people?
internal.
So
Kathy Mathis and I are doing it with the whole staff, and Powers are all coming in that day for it.
Do you have anything else for that, or do you want me to move on?
No, I think we're good.
All right, so our next is improve school climate and safety for all students and enhance student self-efficacy skills, as well as increase their appropriate responses to a range of expected behaviors. And we've done a lot of work the last few years. So in K and 1, we have We Thinkers that our school psychologists and teachers co-teach to every student in K and 1, and then in second grade we do zones of regulation. I know in the middle school they've done a lot with their small group
Advisories.
Thank you, advisories. So this year we continue with Oveus. We've introduced Oveus for a few years. We have lessons going on in every classroom every week, and the themes are the same each week, whether you're in 4th grade or 8th grade or 2nd grade. So that has really come well. The committee has worked really hard to give our teachers training. We had a couple parent nights last year. We went out to small groups, we went out to the library and did some training with the adults. We went out to Carlisle Kids House. We had the police, we had the rec department. So we did a lot of training with partners in Carlisle in small groups to tell them about the program, to tell them about the language. And so that was helpful. This year, we're just continuing that in the classrooms.
One thing just you may have noticed around the schools, and this is thanks really to the generosity of the CEF, is some of the positive messages, the pro-social messages you've seen, like be a nice human or never give up. So these are in some of our shared physical spaces, like going down the staircase, you'll see it maybe above a door jamb or in pretty conspicuous but hidden places. In fact, some of the sixth graders that were here earlier tonight, I never saw that one before.
Yeah.
So it's a way of just making the school in general a little bit more of a positive place. Also, we have a new health teacher. So we have health for all middle school students, grades 5 through 8. In the past, it was only 6 through 8. So we're looking at that curriculum and working with Megan Laughlin, our new teacher, to integrate health more systemically and having one teacher be able to do multiple grades. And also ensuring that students have the opportunity to develop the social emotional intelligence, and then having support groups as they emerge and as needs emerge for our school psychologists.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Now with the epidemic and vaping, do we have that part of
Great
health wellness
question.
and
And
is
there's
it part of our curriculum?
Yeah, one thing we are currently doing is we are going to be partnering with Emerson Hospital and implementing a youth risk behavior survey. I don't think that's actually in here, but that's something that we're going to be doing in the spring, and we're exploring that opportunity.
That's wonderful.
Okay, third slide, moving on. We're going to, third district objectives, ensure that all students have access to a high quality content and differentiated instruction that provides for the academic, social, and emotional support required to ensure success for all students. And this is the point where I'm going to talk about the various tiers, and if you notice the first goal is to implement a coordinated system of tiered support. So getting back to our tier 1, that is universal instruction for all students, and that's to identify and remove some of the barriers that, as we notice them in the general curriculum. Tier 2 would be to schedule targeted and timely and flexible interventions into our schedule to better respond to students as they struggle in math, literacy, and executive functioning. And then tier 3 is, we can talk to that as well, as just a standardized IEP, having a data-driven progress report and problem-solve consult schedules, which is ongoing. Yep. And then increase PD, which you shared regarding special education. So that's the implementation of a coordinated system.
And then next is to explore alternative methods and approaches to optimize special education service delivery in grades pre-K through 8 while operating within our current resource allocation for Carlisle Public Schools. So we're looking already, I know the middle school has met as special ed and general ed together. Lori and I are running an elementary meeting on December 10th, the half day, to start talking about the relationship between special ed and general ed, and what do we see are our strengths, what's happening, what's our areas that we want to look into, so that we have multiple months to plan for the following year of how we're gonna identify what service delivery, how that's gonna look at, how are we going to be creating our classrooms. So all of that will be in the conversation that we're going to be doing over the next few months. So I know middle school is going to have those same conversations. Lori and Matt are working, and Lori and I are working together.
And the final goal, in terms of under this umbrella of the district objective, is to review and reflect on the implementation of our tiered system of supports for students, as well as differentiated instruction, especially given the cognitive, personal, and interpersonal competencies that students will need to have in the 21st century. So we've implemented a new middle school schedule this year. We're going to learn from the experience. We're going to reflect on it. We're going to make incremental adjustments as we learn from what our students experience and what our teachers experience. So what we have now this year will improve on for future years. Bless you.
Thank you.
So in terms of that last point, Matt, in terms of benchmarking, let's say, you know, the success of the system by the time they, you know, graduate from 8th grade. I know Ms. Wilson, in divisioning, I think I saw it because I was looking at the minutes, it reminded me, posed a question, you know, are we surveying the children or the parents of children who opt out of the school system as to why, number one. Two, are we going to CCHS and, you know, getting with them about how our kids are doing, how do they do? And then I guess third, are you looking at other school systems and also comparing how they're doing in their middle school progress? I mean, are those things that you're taking on?
I would say no to the first one. I haven't, I mean, I've not done that. I've not interviewed or talked to parents that have left the district or that just initially decided to put their students in private school or home school.
Well, students who never came in would be less relevant, I would think.
Yeah.
They've made a decision without data, I would say. But parents who've left, usually in middle school, and there are a lot of reasons why, but, you know, they made a conscious decision.
Third and fourth, we used to lose quite a few
Yeah,
when I first came in.
but also I would
Yeah.
propose 6 as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
And
think,
that's a space we can explore, like exit interviews or something.
because they know what they had, and
Yeah.
they know what they're getting somewhere else.
Absolutely.
That's a good idea.
To the other two, definitely yes. I know that some of this, the review and reflect piece, we want to inform, what do we want our children and our graduates of Carlisle Public Schools to look like? What are the skills and competencies that they have? So that'll be informed from the visioning process as well, also from the experiences of living the schedule, our new implementation of the schedule, the flex block, at least in the middle school.
Yeah.
I know that our last faculty meeting was in October. That marked about 1/6 of the school year. So I use that as an opportunity to dipstick in with the faculty and say, how's it going? What are some areas that you're finding that are working well, or some areas that we can make improvements on? So I have all of those documents. We'll do that, a similar activity, maybe at the mid-year point, because I want to be informed by the teacher's experience as well as the student's experience.
But Kim Reed has done a lot of work over the last few years connecting with CCHS and asking them about our kids coming in. So she always brings data back for us.
And and I am actually meeting with the middle school principal in Concord on Friday. And I reached out to the high school and I did a very brief but pretty systemic analysis of our students who are now freshmen and sophomores, how they, juniors and seniors, so not our freshmen, because we don't have the grades yet for them. And I looked at their outcomes. What were their grades like at CCHS? So I have done that analysis.
Anything you want to share on that?
They're doing really well.
Good answer.
Yeah, they are.
I wanted to add that I'm not sure if the Carlisle parents are aware, but when our kids transition to the high school site, the high school actually administers testing that places kids and monitors any sort of weaknesses so they can, again, catch those weaknesses, whether in math or literacy, and give our kids those extra supports and pull them out when they're no longer necessary. That helps a better student placement also in the classes, whether they're CP classes or honors classes. And it gives information to the parents as well. Where is my child going? Why my child is getting help, if it's getting help. They do a good job in terms of follow-up, with parents via letters as well. So I think the transition, and monitoring of those metrics continues into high school, which is really good to see.
Is there any way for us to sort of see, like, what how well our assessments match up with what the high school, are there kids that we're flagging, are we more careful, or is the high school catching things that we've missed?
I don't know, you would be comparing, I guess I would want to know more about what are we looking for, because there would be different assessments. Would they be teacher-created assessments? Would they be research-based assessments that we're doing, like universal screeners? So I'm curious as well, but I don't know what that comparison would yield.
But when you meet with the principal of the high school, then they might be able to tell you, right, some of the things. So we could start looking at what the assessments they use and what the assessments we're using, and how many kids kind of just flow easily through and how many are different from those assessments. We could actually get that.
Based on 3 months, 2 months of freshman experience, and we have 3 parents here who are freshmen.
Yeah.
I would say there's 3 different things going on. One is, do they have the basic skills that lets them survive high school, a competitive high school? And I think by and large, the answer is yes, and your data would say those juniors and seniors are doing fine.
Yeah.
So they get there, somehow they get there. That's one set of things. Second, I think, is for the kids in regular ed, how well the high school does to introduce the menu of choices of curriculum that the kids then start selecting with an advisor who doesn't actually know the child that well, but parents are there and stuff. And that's something that Bill worked on a lot, a few years ago, I think. Here, Bill Fink, when he was on the committee, because it was kind of a no man's land for a while, but I think my sense is it's much better. But that does rely somewhat on the parents and the children's sort of self-awareness of where they are, right? And don't take the hardest math class if you're not that great, I mean, kind of, you have to be realistic. But I also know from, anecdotal experience that they may opt to change classes early if they find that they made a bad decision. So that's that group. Then the third group is the IEP group, by and large. Maybe there's other ones I've had before. That one I still think needs work, because the handoff of the IEP and the real understanding of what Carlisle is trying to assess and what they want to assess. Again, from personal experience, that's where I see the gaps, that there wasn't really good communication. I'm not blaming either side particularly. I'm just saying the handoff wasn't great, the communication wasn't great, and you really, with those kids, I think, and it's selfish to say, but I think it's on Concord, Carlisle, who's going to have 4 years of that student, to really come up here and learn what that kid needs, so that when that kid goes in, there's not all this confusion. I think there's somewhat that you can do too, but I think there just needs to be closer. My experience is, I don't know, Ellie, you could comment.
So I wanted to add that, Concord is still building their support systems and changing how they deliver help and to our IEP kids, and also they've gone through some changes in supports for kids in general education that might need those supports as well. So going forward to next year, it would be great to work with them closely to see, how to hand over our children earlier, maybe start the transition for our IEP children earlier, and so they get a chance to get our kids to know and where who are they going to be assigning to our children.
So I actually just had a conversation with Jessica, who's on maternity leave, who came in and met with me about this, because the parents are asked to work with the students to do their course selections in January. But the transition meetings for the students on IEPs happen later in the spring. So what will happen is some of these students will sign up for a class that they think they're going to get, but then they'll have a transition meeting, they'll be like, oh, well, actually, we want you to take this study skills class, and you can't take that class, and so there's a breakdown of that. So Jessica was saying that she's going to put together a letter for us to send out to all the 8th grade families who have IEPs, to be aware of this process and what happens, and that we will be meeting in the spring to go over it. But in the meantime, when they're doing this, they should be open to asking us questions that we can research for them, and asking questions of guidance in high school as well, to say, this is what my child's IEP looks like, this is the services, what should we be thinking about because we help them with some of their course selections, but when it comes to all the extra electives and things of that nature, that's where it gets a little tricky. The kids might not get the one thing they really wanted. We don't want to see that.
Actually, I think there's another opportunity for some, I have 2 things I want to say. One is in terms of collecting data about, how many kids are taking advantage of the math lab, the social studies lab, the lighthouse, the whatever. There's a whole bunch of different services, and one, I don't know that people are aware of that before they get there, and number 2, the kids, I don't know if they're showing up or not even if they have them available, unless someone's holding their hand and saying, you should go during your free block, they're, you know, in the lounge. Sharing TikTok.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if there is, you know, if who's keeping track of who's showing up in those extra help spaces and collecting, you know.
But that's really on the high school.
Making a connection there.
So I would say, we can look at, I think Lori and I can talk to the folks in CCHS and see what can we do to help kind of make the handoff smoother, as you said. And maybe we'll even do a little polling with our own people, right?
Right.
Families who've sent the kid how to go.
Right.
Same thing Rick refers with people to leave, but just what's the feedback? And then we can work with them in that regard, I think, to see how we can smooth out the feedback. I think we also talked about in December, kind of going over the whole transition process here in this meeting, right?
Right.
Foreshadowing for parents and for everybody here.
In this meeting here, or you mean
Yes.
for?
Like as a
present.
as a presentation to the committee,
Oh,
so
okay.
we all have a shared understanding of what that transition process looks like, both for all students,
Yeah.
for students who may have IEPs, but also how it connects with the vocational technical schools, which that question comes up
Right,
often,
yeah.
like, how come a decision wasn't made until June, and why didn't we? So just to foreshadow all of that
Yeah.
as it's
Well,
coming up.
you know, you bring up, I think, a point I hadn't thought of before, but for us Carlilians, you know, in our little 600 student ecosystem, or 80, you know, the 80, so 160 eighth grade parents, of which half show up, so 80 parents trundle down there, and they're in this ginormous auditorium with 300 other, it was intimidating for me, you know, I'm like, whoa, like this is, and so I think they do a good job. You know, they have several focus groups. Mike Mistrul is a good presenter. They lay stuff out. But you know what? It might be really nice because we do have enough shared experience. Maybe what you want to do is host the eighth grade parents here
Oh, that's a
and
good
say, you know, this is what you can expect. They're with the people, human nature, right? They're with people they're comfortable with. You can invite CC people to come up, but the scale will be different. And you can say, okay, these are the things you have to think about, because there's a lot of moving parts. And I'm telling you, they go in there and they just blast through it, like, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do that. And the kids are like, you know, and we're like this. So, you know, it might be there might be something in that.
We can talk to the folks in
Because we're collecting experience, we have plenty of experience. I want to ask you said Jessica, but isn't now, there's a guy, he's the Jason or?
Jessica's our person, our eighth grade.
Jessica's our
your
special
person.
ed eighth grade liaison.
Okay, because the guy in the Newton guy, right? What's his name? Jason?
Justin.
That's the guy now, right? Because they didn't have that job. They had a teacher who had been sort of field promoted to do that. And that was another issue, right? They had a bargaining unit employee who was sort of a coordinator, and that was not a good thing. And now you've got a
They worked it out, though, yes.
So he's a good point person now, right?
So Shannon, back to your question. I don't have data about which kids independently or are led to extra help supports, or if they have an equivalent tier 2 support. I don't have that. What I do have is which students from Carlisle in which grades were in which different levels of courses in their freshman, sophomore, and now junior years. They are very proportional, with the exception of Latin. Or we just don't have Latin here, so the kids are prepared so that they are in the beginning Latin section.
You got a parent of a Latin student on the phone, I think.
And me too, also. But I did have a second question, because you're saying that you're trying to track also not just the grades, right? But the whole kid. And I know it's easy to go in and say, our kids are doing great because we can see their grades. But is there any dipstick for the social emotional piece? Because that's one of the things that we've been talking a lot about. And
in terms of the transition to high school,
Yeah.
or just holistically here in?
Well,
because I can speak more to how we're doing here. I can only speculate, and I don't want to do that.
yeah, okay.
Shannon, if I could try, that might be a conversation that that I could have with the high school and see what type of data we can bring back. I think one of the challenges as a school that brings in students from multiple communities, the school, that institution doesn't like disaggregating the data too often. Right? Like, okay, the Carlisle kids in the as a school, you see the children come through the door as as all our children. So we can like, and we'll ask, and they've been cooperative, like they'll break out the data and give us the grades, they'll break out the data and show us those assessments they take the first year when they get back in, so we can compare and see how we're doing. I'm just cautious of like how much we ask them to keep disaggregating that data. But I will say they are gathering social emotional data at their school. They have a screener that they're using there, so it is worth having the conversation. So I'm happy to do that.
And I'm not trying to get like a PhD in data-driven analysis. It's just that since we are starting to think about the visioning work, and we are talking about, or there's some beginning discussions about moving away from all this assessment by the numbers, like the success of our students is all about the grades, is kind of how we've been. But if we want to move to something which is also includes the social emotional piece as a measure of success, then I guess I wonder how are we doing it, because we don't have good assessments for those that I'm aware of.
So can I?
Great.
Yeah.
Can I just
We've got to keep moving though, because we've got a lot of people.
Just a quick, so high school does screen incoming student for social and emotional. There are two screeners. One is for the math and the LA, and there's another one for the social and emotional. Just so they understand which students they need to support as they are transitioning. Transition is a big topic at CCHS, at the original site as well. And they are implementing, and I think that this probably is going to be a great topic for the next school committee meeting, to bring some of that information. What is high school doing to help our kids transition, and what they are telling us that we can do better, or what they want to see in a student coming in ready for high school. Those and for that meeting that we have with where we invite the high school, maybe we can also invite students from the high school to sort of show what their experience is transitioning into high school, and this way parents can understand it better and visualize the whole experience of what happens on the other side. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Evelyn.
So Jim also asked us to present MCAS, but I just don't know about time, if you want us to do that or not.
How long will it take?
We have 3 slides.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes?
Okay.
All right.
sorry, I'm rushing.
So one thing I just want to say is the testing has changed. We were PARC, so it was MCAS then PARC, and now it's MCAS 2.0. So we always want to look at multiple years, not just one, but we can only go back so far because we haven't had that many years of MCAS 2.0. But for ELA in both 3rd and 4th grade, we had a focus for writing the last 2 years, and we saw quite a jump in our MCAS writing responses. And so that's why in both 3rd and 4th, 86% of the students were proficient or exceeded. Met expectation or exceeded expectation. And in 4th grade, their growth, so the number far to the right, 71.1. So medium growth is 40 to 60, so above 60 is high growth. So we had a lot of great growth in literacy in the 4th grade this particular year. And again, we want to look at trends. But right now, our trend in literacy is going up to the focus for the last couple of years in writing.
Is this the test of the fall or the test
This
from
is
last?
This is the spring.
So these are your current freshman class.
Yeah.
And then this is our current 8th grade. And then
Yep.
there's no growth because that was the first time.
In 3rd grade, yeah.
So I jump to math. All right, so here's the counterpart for the math assessment. You can see grades 3 through 8 here as well, meeting or exceeding, and then the student growth percentile as well. Again, 50 would be the median, and anything north of 50 with 3, like that's really, really strong, high growth. And you can see the meeting and exceeding expectations.
But to your point, you gotta get more year-over-year data, because it might be just a really strong class.
This recalculates every test. This is one thing. So as a parent, you'll receive your individual score reports, and you see that in the mail, it's a nice color chart, and it'll tell you your students' growth. This is the aggregate of all those students on that test in that grade level for that 1 year.
Right.
It's recalculated and renormed based on growth the next year, and then the
Meaning
next
the bar
year.
is higher for those kids now to show that growth?
They're in the same,
They're compared to kids right?
they're compared to kids across the state that scored the same exact
Exact
score on that previous test.
And then
So
how
if
they
they do
do
really well 1 year, then the bar's higher to show that growth.
Well, they're just in the same cohort of students that performed at that really high score. And then you take all those kids that scored that really high score and they look at them and say, how did all those kids do the subsequent year that scored that really high score the initial year?
But if you level out at a super high score, do you show no growth then? Is it kind of?
You could get a ceiling effect at the very end if you're.
Well, you're kind of getting to the end.
Yeah.
I mean, you're up there,
Yeah,
pretty high.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have.
And then in science, so again, if I look historically, this is not changed, so it's the same MCAS that we've had for years, that when we brought in No Adam in grades 3, 4, and 5, we have continued to see a climb in kids who are meeting expectation or exceeding. So we were 4 years ago in the 60s, then in the 70s, and we continue to, last year I think we're 80, 81, and now 83. So we're, again, looking at a trend, which is a good trend in science.
There's no growth because it's not sequential.
Good. Very
All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great
Thank you,
stuff.
gentlemen.
All right, that was wonderful. So Amoresco, thank you very much, and Mr. DePark, thank you so much for waiting. So let's let Amoresco show us the slides. We have them in our packets. Great colors.
Thank you. One color copy, so.
Jonathan, do you want to set?
It's got it committed to memory.
Is that what's in the new packet?
Yeah, but it's not colored in the packet.
Would you like a color copy?
No, thank you.
I'm happy.
I don't like it.
These big firms can afford the colors.
No, thank you. Just silence. That's the way it is.
I have this
Yeah.
one doesn't work.
What do we do with this? It's not.
No,
It's,
I'm with her.
Maybe.
Are you? What do you do?
Depends on-
What do you do?
She has an ESD.
Yeah, they-
ADHD.
Ooh, it looks so high tech with those solar panels.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No,
Okay.
that logic doesn't prevail.
Nice way to shade it.
I can't remember. Did we talk about
Carpet
these
is very
moving
nice.
to that application? You know, those big boxes.
Yeah, I think they're great.
Okay,
Here.
ready.
Go for it.
So, good evening. My name is Davina Thacker. I'm from Amoresco, a project development manager, and then I'm here with Shantini, who's a project development engineer. We're working on the solar canopies for Carlisle School. We were here some previous times, so we just want to give a quick update on where we're at. So this is our original proposed plan. And so we went for site plan review, we got approval. We had to move the equipment pad, originally we proposed it in this area, but since it was within the 40-foot setback, we moved it to this island area to receive site plan approval. We did, and we also received word today that we got into the SMART program, Block 3, which is great news. So we want to present some renderings of the equipment pad and what it'll look like. We previously had the renderings over here of what it will look like, so now we moved it to the island. And as you can see here, we put some screening up for where the equipment pad would be. And these are just a couple of images reflecting that.
Nice.
So I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
That was the only reporting item.
That's pretty much, yeah. Just that we moved it to the island and now we're going to be screening it from that area, so I don't know if
Are there
actually gonna be 7 charging stations?
This is
Oh.
the-
I don't think it's separate. Oh, right, sorry.
Is there fencing around that as well?
There is on one side, well, there, oh, those must be the ones.
No, that's what she was thinking.
Yeah.
It's a popular call.
So you want to mention that,
It's fine.
Yeah.
You're talking time, we didn't talk timeline here, is anything, timeline?
we kids do anything to that, you know, climbing on it, or
We can
is
ask
it
for that.
dangerous for children?
Well, it's all closed off, so
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not,
yeah,
just push occupancy or find.
let me get my house out.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be fenced in, or
It
it
doesn't have to be.
doesn't have to push this and suffice.
So can you just give us a sense of where we are in the timeline now that we have our block?
So I guess our next step is the geotech, do the geotech analysis.
Actually, can I just?
Okay, let's usually talk and then I'll.
Sorry, Shantali.
I do want to mention that there will be some tree clearing. So pretty much the ones over here, a couple of them here. That would be it. And probably trimming around that. So that it doesn't shade.
Right, last thing we want to shade, right? Okay.
It would not be much use, but shaded, so.
So what's geo?
So the geotech is when you go to put in foundations to make sure,
It's to test the soil to see what kind of foundations to design. Yeah. So hopefully it's good.
Like Rocky Lunch and maybe.
Yeah.
That would not be good.
so.
And that's in
Yes.
December, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, so we proposed December 10th and 11th. And I know the 10th is a half day, so talking to our consultant Wood, they prefer, we tried to get them to go in after school's done on that half day, but unfortunately just due to the sun setting pretty early, they'd like to go in at like 7 a.m., work through the day as well as the 11th on.
Have they been in communication with our facilities manager?
So we did, so they haven't directly, but I did, and Rob said that would be okay, but I do have to follow up with him on the
Because
details.
we may have, it might be like Dallas, because I think we have other drilling going on site with regard to
Okay.
another situation.
And is this still right in the middle of the parking lot testing?
Vacation.
So you're gonna schedule a bus drop off in the front loop, pick up and drop off? Because they're gonna have to,
So,
Well, we can do the lower one first.
so these red dots are what we're proposing to drill. And what we were, talking about earlier was, doing some type of rotation where it would not affect the, bus drop off. So we would do, so for example, on the half day, that's the 10th, we would work off array 2, which is one right here, work off array 3 as well as array 4. That was done by, say, I'm not sure which is, like 1 or 12 that day. So we get 3 done. That would, I guess, that would take up about 11 parking spots. So we would need a little bit of room there, and then finish off the rest the next day when there is no school. So we would not be interfering with the bus drop off at that time.
So you'd be able to work with Rob Furtado to figure out exactly which spaces to block off so faculty don't park there that morning?
Yes, yes. We need to put some cones down and block it off, but we're in the process of working on it.
And we'd have to do that on the 11th too, because there's conferences, parents coming in.
So we would need 2 full days of geotech, which is
Okay.
what we're proposing to tech on the 11th.
Great.
Thanks.
and then from there?
So that's the next step. Immediately, then we're going to work into
procurement. And then we have a schedule set up to come in April and do the foundations.
Potentially the conduits.
Yeah, foundations and conduits for during April vacation. And then we're working with the paving contractor to come in July and start coordinating that and finish up construction by the end of August before school starts.
Jonathan, I'm just going to pull you in. On your update today, this afternoon, there was something about the project being completed by January 31st?
No, that's the charging station.
Right.
Yeah.
That's different.
It's okay.
So yeah, we'll worry about that in a minute.
Okay,
Doesn't
all right.
affect these guys, we're working around whatever they need.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
Great. Sounds like a good schedule. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys waiting after that big conference call this morning, too.
So one question, on the 11th, it sounds like there's gonna be teachers here. Do you need the whole parking lot blocked off?
No,
Or
no, we just need to phase it off,
just
yeah.
the bus area, and any other individual?
Yeah, there's a total of 8, Lauren.
should say it.
So each day would be 4.
Okay. So I think the decision in front of you guys is their rendering acceptable? Or do you want to ask
Oh,
them
right.
to go and, ask the ZBA to put it back in the original location? So if you guys have a decision on that would be
You
good
can
to.
let the release, yeah, I think it looks
Yeah.
very good.
It's fine, if we accept it, is there some wicket that has to be, is there a zoning, a planning board wicket that still has to be crossed?
You like it, Evan?
Jonathan?
Are the trees planted at this size, or do we have to wait 10 years for them?
So, I'm trying to see if I can get 6 foot to 7.
No, I'm just curious. No, that looks good.
I mean,
It was
the tallest-
concerning,
And that's green.
earlier it was concerning, this is a little more discreet.
So, Jonathan, if we accept it, is there then some wicket that the planning board has to go through?
No, whether you accept it or not, the planning board is done, they've approved both sites.
But it gives them direction.
Yeah, it tells them whether they need to go talk to the ZBA,
Okay,
so.
so, I don't think we have to vote on it?
Vote on it.
All right,
Doesn't hurt to vote.
so, do I hear a motion to accept the, screening plan as described by Amoresco tonight?
I move that you accept it.
Second?
I second that.
Discussion?
One second, I'll check with Sarah.
How's my
Any
juice?
discussion, Sarah?
How much juice I
Or
have?
any questions?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so let's do a roll call vote on the screening for Amoresco's plan here.
Modell, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye?
Lavery, aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night.
bye-bye.
Okay, now, Mr. DeCock,
I'll come up front so that people can hear me better.
all right, we also have Sarah Wilson on the phone, so that's helpful.
So, very quick update. Since our last meeting, Eversource assigned Commonwealth Electric. I met with them, talked to them about a bunch of the constraints that they should think about in terms of, putting a trench through across part of the parking lot. They took all that information under advisement. They created a plan, which I have not seen. It's gone to Eversource. Eversource needs to approve it, and we're kind of waiting on that right now. The financials are all taken care of. As far as installation, so Green Communities is going to cover the installation completely. The Energy Task Force will cover any incidental costs between now and the end of the fiscal year. And we met with the Board of Selectmen, and they seemed on board with the idea of creating a revolving fund for going forward from there.
Yeah.
Although they didn't actually vote on it. So,
We're gonna be discussing that, because
yeah, the FinCom needs to discuss it too, right?
that was, it's for the.
Yeah, separate meeting, any case. So I think much of that is under control. The Board of Selectmen also voted to approve the legal agreement with Eversource for the EV Make Ready stuff, pending a review by Town Council. So that is also all set. The one thing that is not all set is the timeline. So we found out from Green Communities that we need to have it purchased and installed by January 31st. in order to be eligible to apply for Green Communities grants in 2020. Given the rate of movement of Eversource, which is even slower than town government, surprisingly, that is looking very difficult right now. And so I don't have enough information for you guys right now to vote to approve everything, right? We don't have a timeline. We don't have an agreed upon plan as to exactly where it's gonna go, where they're gonna trench, all that kind of stuff. So that's the one big bugaboo with this. I don't know.
Yeah, that seems tight.
So if they drag their heels, what happens? You miss a year or what?
Yeah, if they drag their heels, then the project's done.
You can't do it.
No, we just can't do
Because
it.
we can't get that January 1st deadline.
Yeah, because
Is
if we
there any
don't
way
get
to accelerate them? Is there any?
I've lit a fire under them as best as I can. So, yeah, if it doesn't work out,
That would be a shame.
then basically the next opportunity for us to have any grant to cover the charging station would be after the parking lot is paved. And so it's kind of a now or never kind of thing.
So is there anybody you can reach, anybody?
Yeah, I'm in contact with Commonwealth Electric, I've got their VPs on the line, I've got the people in charge of Eversource on the line. Everybody's trying to make it happen, but, you know,
What's the-
procedures.
Is it internal Eversource procedures or?
Yeah,
with the
that's
company?
what it seems to be slowing it down.
So is there any, I mean,
Should we call?
should we find out who like lives in Carlisle who's, you know,
Yeah.
high up in the Eversource world? I mean, you might be surprised.
Pull some strings, I don't know.
I mean, if you back it out, what happens, like when does that have to happen to make the other stuff happen by January 31st? Is there an internal deadline before that?
No, well, we just need
Or it's just-
enough
you just need to
information for
approve
them
it.
to have the commitment to actually make it happen, and then we can very quickly buy this stuff.
You say the project must be complete.
Yes.
Does that just mean they have to bless it, or does that mean other things?
No, that means it has to be installed, functioning,
Right,
and
so
able to charge
that's why,
cars.
so my point is, so you back out things that would happen after their approval.
Yeah.
What date do you get as a, you know, drop dead date for Eversource to do
I
this?
don't know yet, because I don't know how long it takes to actually do the install.
And the install is trenching?
The trenching and putting in the conduit and the electric
Which they would do,
meter.
in January, they would do that.
They seem perfectly fine with it, so.
And what does that do to the parking in January?
Well, yeah,
So
60 days we'll have
far,
that.
they only need to come across Church Street, up a corner of the exit driveway, and then across one of the two exits out of the parking lot.
So it's not that invasive.
It's not really that invasive.
So it's not going to the actual charging?
Yeah, it goes right to the charging station, which is now
Oh, okay.
in that
Oh, yeah,
island,
yeah,
right close to.
So what
Church
is
Street.
what are they have to just approve it, or they have to get a permit from the, what does Eversource have to do?
I believe Eversource needs to approve the plan that Commonwealth Electric gave them. So, which
Right,
they
everybody call them
requested.
tomorrow
so-
morning.
Should we start calling?
Yeah, everybody should call
I
every
don't
day.
know, I mean, you have to go higher, I mean,
Yeah. So,
you seem pretty relaxed about it, it seems to me
well,
like that.
that's what happens to me when I get stressed. I appear to be relaxed. So yes, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Should
here.
we write a
This-
letter, maybe the school committee should write a letter to chairman of Eversource or something, I don't know, I mean, just say, look, you know, we're trying to be green,
Right.
Don't make
and
it
you
so
asked
hard
for
to be
this, and we
green.
need it by,
Maybe the kids should write a letter. We're trying to, you know, with the pictures that we're trying to be a green community.
Well, why don't we put it this way, though? If there's anything you think we can do to help you, just call me.
Yeah, the only thing that I can think of is if it all manages to come together, would you guys be willing to schedule a special meeting to vote to approve it?
of course.
Yeah.
Just so we don't have to wait all the way into the
No,
middle
no,
of the
no, no, we'll
Absolutely.
approve it the next day.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah,
So with the usual, 2-3 days notice and
Yeah.
whatnot.
right.
Okay.
What is it,
Nancy's-
48
Nancy's-
hours? 48, they have to be business days.
But it has to be posted, so you,
Yeah,
but just,
48.
yeah, just we'll do it right away, we'll come on a weekend. You can't
Okay. I think that's better than having you guys try to come up with a motion now that like gives somebody authority to approve it. I think I'd rather actually be.
No, I'm more concerned that they just bollocks up their approval and it comes in too late, right?
Right.
So is anybody giving you any sort of commitment of when they might do that?
No.
And they won't?
No.
But is it like some bureaucrat has to pick up a pen and sign something? Or?
I really don't know.
But I can tell you this, we got the best guy in the job.
I know. All right.
He's not gonna drop it,
Yeah.
so.
It's not a drop thing, it's like.
No,
So,
he's not gonna
yeah,
give up.
I'm after all of them right now.
All
And
right.
so far, they're all saying the right things,
Yeah.
except they're not committing to get it
They're
done.
not doing it.
So,
All right.
so anyways, that's where we are.
So assume that we'll have you back in December and we can just look back at all the great things that happened
Right.
between then and now.
Exactly.
All right?
All right, thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Doug, for everything you're doing. It's pretty impressive.
You want me to come talk to FinCom?
Okay, we've now come down to the special education portion of our show. Yeah. Okay. Right.
So, I think you guys got this in your packet.
Yep.
Yep.
So, Jim and I were talking and he thought it would be beneficial for all of us to just kind of cut and paste the recommendations from the report right into a spreadsheet and kind of talk through our prioritization of them. Some of them are repetitive because we literally just cut and pasted them, so you'll see they get to be a little repetitive, just depending on where they were in the report itself.
Yep.
So I was just going to give you an update on kind of where we are so far on some of the recommendations, and then answer any questions that you have. So I'm not going to go over every single one of them, but just so you know what's going on. We are very committed to looking at the current model of special educators per grade. Now, it's not exactly how it's happening this year, but it's a little patchwork this year. There's like a special educator per grade, and then people also helping out where they need to help out. We do have some interesting numbers. Some of our grades are pretty high. So, and both in high need and in high numbers of students. So we're learning this year too what's working, what doesn't work, and like what the domino effect is when you ask somebody. When you ask a middle school teacher to help out in elementary while doing a wonderful job at it, when a child on their caseload has an IEP at 8 o'clock in the morning, they're supposed to be teaching. Oh, right, we never really thought about that. So little things like that we're figuring out. But Matt and I met with middle school staff to talk about special ed and what's working for them as far as their relationship with the teachers and when the teachers are pushing in and how they push in and when they're pulling out, what it looks like. We talked about moving away from this grade level model. Then I also met with just all special educators to get some feedback from them. I would say one of the biggest takeaways is that middle school and elementary school need to look a little different. Just because in elementary school, we're really trying to help kids learn to read and learn their basic foundational math skills, you know, from the special ed perspective. And then when you think about the other category, those students that have special education services that are only serviced by SLPs or OTs, that number tends to go down as they get older, right? Because that tends to be like an RTIC issue or a fine motor issue that we're able to help them with. So that piece, that number tends to go down. So Dennett and I have a meeting scheduled on December 10th on the half day in the afternoon with the general educators and the special educators in elementary so that we can have some similar conversations that Matt and I had with middle school to get the feedback. We want to make sure that as we make decisions moving forward, everybody kind of has an opportunity to have a voice, and also so that we can make sure that we gain an understanding of how our decisions will impact the general ed classrooms. The piece that I think everybody is kind of hearing loud and clear and agrees upon is that we need to have some staff who are really talented, interested, and certified in literacy do cross-grade instruction. So that you don't, no matter how much you train staff, you're always going to have certain staff that are just gifted at certain things, right? And we do have some staff that are really gifted at teaching kids how to read. So instead of saying, oh, this is the one grade they're working with and they get lucky enough to have the student, that staff member needs to work across grades. And I think it took some conversations with staff to have them start to understand what that would look like and hear, but people were coming around and being in agreement, okay, that makes sense. And we talked about various models, we brainstormed different ways it could look. So I think we're getting there, and we have to take this time so that we can make this change happen in a manner that everybody's supportive of and nobody feels blindsided by. So that's where we're at with the kind of number one recommendation. As far as the co-taught teaching model, we have one special educator right now that teaches almost everything co-taught, and then every subject, and then we have another one that's kind of trying to do it, but her caseload's pretty heavy, so she has to take kids out of the classroom. So we decided, like, let's look at what makes the most sense, both from efficiency perspective and what's in the best interest of students. And we decided that we're going to continue to investigate this and unpack it. It's a priority for us. But we want to look at having special educators co-teach ELA to start. Just start with ELA. And again, it might look a little different. It might be writing in middle school, and it might be foundations classes in elementary.
Which grades are co-taught presently?
Right now, they're co-taught. Co-taught is done, I would say, authentically in 4th grade. There is a co-taught class in 3rd grade, but it's a very, that 3rd grade class has a lot of students on an IEP. So she's not really able to co-teach in the same way that the 4th grade.
So is the 4th the pilot? I mean, when you assess that effectiveness, is it based on the pilot of one? It's an elementary grade, and you made the point that the grades are different, so.
Right, so exactly. So I don't know that we can really assess the effectiveness of it because that grade doesn't have as many students on IEPs, and there's less of a high need. So it gets and it depends on what factors you're looking at when you're assessing the effectiveness, right? But we do know that we have middle school teachers that spend a lot of time supporting ELA teachers, that is baked in their schedules, and it makes sense because now, you know, it's incredibly important that we're not constantly pulling middle schoolers out of their content classes. So, and they have a plethora of knowledge on how to differentiate writing assignments and how to teach writing and how to get creative outlets for brainstorming and things like that. So to have them work, and I feel like they work very collaboratively with the teachers. And when I met with them, they love each other. It was so obvious. Like every single general ed person was like, don't take my special educator away, they're so awesome. And it was beautiful to see, but there could be more co-teaching that occurs there. And instead of trying to like pilot this with everything, let's just pick ELA, pilot it with ELA next year and see what it looks like. And go from there. So that's our thoughts on that. Go ahead.
So just another question. So the kids on IEPs, they are in those grades, 3rd and 4th grade, if they need support, they are not getting the supports in, for example, like social studies, right? Or they don't have a co-teacher in the social studies, right? Or do they get it?
In 4th grade they do.
They do, right.
In 4th grade
okay.
they do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In 3rd grade it just depends on the day of the week and whether or not she's got to pull somebody out for explicit phonics-based instruction. In 4th grade, we have somebody from 2nd grade that comes and pulls the student that needs that instruction out. So, and in 3rd grade, we have somebody else that does the other classes. So right now, it's a real team approach with a lot of things in the kitchen, and we can streamline this moving forward. Yeah.
But nobody's falling through the cracks now.
No one's falling through the cracks. Everybody is getting their needs met. It's just a little bit like who's going where. We agree with the recommendation of trying to cluster the students in grade levels into 2 classes. I don't think our numbers are such that I'm going to be able to put them all into 1 class. None of our grades are that small enough at this point that would make sense. I mean, we don't have a lot in 1st grade right now, but it's only November, so yeah. But it does make sense to try and see if we can do it in 2 classes.
So you're saying one class to have too many kids?
We have no grade level where we could put, so you can't have more than 10 kids in a class in an IEP and still call it an integrated class. Right. Exactly.
So you're saying that, so there's more than could be put in one.
Right, so there are very few grades that would be applicable for, and so like for example, there's 7 in 7th grade right now, So maybe you could put 7 and 8 in a cohort in 8th grade, but that, it may not make sense.
Right.
You know, you want to talk about like what student needs are, and there's just something to be said about social dynamics.
Yeah, there's a lot of
So,
criteria there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's ratio of the students to teachers.
Yeah, so, and there's different levels of need, both from students that struggle with behavioral issues versus students that just have learning issues. Right. Okay. So the next two ones are not things that we are really tackling right now. We do have students that receive both co-teaching supports and learning center. And there's the co-taught class is by paras who are receiving training for science and social studies. That's concerning to us. Like in middle school right now, we have some social studies and science teachers that don't get as much support from the special educators, and we recognize that's a problem. They need to be able to have that flexibility to go in. And I think when we get away from having just one grade that you work with, but multiple grades that you work with, then we'll be able to have that flexibility in the schedule where they can, if there's a history project going on, they can go in to support students during that history project. And then, you know, there's that poetry project going on, they can go support poetry, things like that.
So Laura, you said disagreed with the recommendation, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like you're saying that. You're saying it's just not appropriate at this time.
It's not, but in general, I don't really feel that we would be training paras to support in science and social studies.
It's the paraprofessional.
It says, students in co-taught classes can be supported by paraprofessionals who have received appropriate training in science and social studies, leaving the special educator available to support direct instruction in ELA and math in a resource support setting.
Okay, but that's.
I think that you can use a para across all 4 subjects with the guidance and the training that's necessary, but I don't think you should separate it out and say that they should just do science and social studies.
I don't read that that's what they're saying. I think.
Okay.
I mean, you close read this much more than I have, but, you know, my general sense of it is with the overall theme was you could empower the paras to do more, which would free up the core special educators to do more. That's the kind of overarching theme. Now, maybe they misspoke about some piece of it, but, you know,
So it was the one piece throughout it, David, like when I looked at the theme with the paras, that I think they didn't interview a lot of paras.
well, now you're questioning your methodology.
No, let me finish. You're gonna see all this para stuff in here throughout this, and I can just talk about paras if you want.
No, I don't want.
But I feel like we are a small community. We have some paras that really are here to focus on behaviors. We have some paras that are here to focus on learning, supporting learning. And I don't think that that should be isolated to science and social studies. Does that make sense? No? Okay. Sorry. The next one that has a 3 is that students needing more pull-out support for classes should be provided with intense, direct, specially designed core content instruction from the special educator. They would receive their academic core content in the special education setting while being included in the general educative classes for other content. It's not really where our focus is right now. It'll be a natural outcome. It's also very student specific. Every student is different, and so we're not touching it right now. But we'll look back on it later after we focused on our priorities.
So we will, but I think it's important to clarify, so we will have students who receive specialized
absolutely
instruction in the pull-out fashion.
Well, as they are
And
now.
they will get the first dose in the classroom in general education and the second dose in pull-out fashion.
Is there a reason why you go 1, 3, 5 that you don't like even numbers? Or
yeah.
We haven't hit it too yet.
I was just going.
There aren't any.
I just
1, 3,
I
6,
chose this prime approach, and we just went.
Prime numbers only.
Yeah, actually, so I have a question. Yeah,
Just-
at the very end,
just
it
came
says,
over.
does battalion, says there are 66 recommendations, and 17 of them have received a 1 reading, so they're top priorities, right? So, is the idea in terms of implementation to roll those out, roll those 16 out as a first wave? Are you going to try, is the timing to try to do all 16 in the next year, or are you clumping them together? I'm
It
just
will
wondering, that's a lot.
it'll take till the end of 21 to
Okay.
see it all. And then we'll be looking at the threes and say, okay, what naturally kind of was addressed by taking care of the ones and the way we did, and what still needs, or what did we hit a wall on? Like, I'm fairly confident that everything about IEPs, which will take a year, and then it'll take a little bit more after that too, just to ensure that we're still there, you know. I'm fairly confident about all of those. And, but, you know, even this co-teaching model, like, we may try it, you know, and we've even talked about trying a little bit of sampling of it this year and getting some teachers out for trainings this year. So Matt and I have been talking about that. And it may just not work. Like, we just have to play around with it and see, but we just don't know, so we're gonna try it. It was a recommendation that's worth trying, because I think we all see the value in it. So we should try it, but with that, the co-teaching one has to go slow.
That's the biggest experiment.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest experiment. I think that the grade level special educators, that has got to take, that has to be in place for September, but it's going to take the next 6 months to get that in place for September so that it's going to be effective next year.
I think that's what you see, a lot, 17 ones, a lot of them are interrelated. And a lot of them are around how we allocate those resources. So as we start, taking apart what we have in place and rebuilding it over these next few months for next year, we should be able to address most of those with that allocation resourcing. And the other big one is the training, right? Making sure that we have people with the extensive literacy training so that they can provide that specialized instruction to those students who are pulling out. I think those are two of the major takeaways that we have.
I certainly agree on the training part. So I guess, I think I'm gonna propose that, you've obviously done a lot of work, and I'm very grateful to see that you're diving deep into this and doing it. So that's exactly what I personally wanted to see. But from a school committee to administration interaction, we may want to dive through all these things. We're interested in it, obviously, but it's not really our role to like parse everything and what are you doing here, what are you doing there. So I'd like to take it up a level and say, all right, you know, for me, because it's been obviously one of my big things, is we have a report, we have some minutia things, we have some big picture things, we have some data, we have some holes in the data, we have what we do every day, and we have MCAS scores that validate that we do pretty well and this and that. You know, my view is there a way we can approach sort of more holistically to say, okay, we can be better at SPED, and there's a bunch of little things to do. And there are, as you say, some overarching themes that come through about training, about the use of maybe paras, we'll call them paras compared with the professionals who, you know, maybe can we leverage their time a little more? Can we, you know, what are the how are we doing early interventions? I mean, there's a bunch of things that are just kind of thematic that then dive into these specifics. And some of them are experiments, like co-teaching. Okay, that's a little avenue that it goes by itself and you come back in. So I'm wondering, how can we as a committee, it's kind of a question to the committee, but certainly to the administration as well, how can we as a committee kind of engage in this in a substance and useful way, not just you report out to us and we listen. You know, last time I proposed maybe a subcommittee that could actually work closely and then, you know, be part of the reporting output. That's what subcommittees are for, right, is to not tie up the whole committee on very detailed issues. I saw somewhere in here about a focus group was a mention, I don't remember in what context. There's advisory committee, which is a little more expansive than a subcommittee, which would have possibly parents in it, maybe even teachers in it, you know, to be a broader base of sort of a sounding board, if you will, of the things you're looking at. So I'm kind of throwing it out there to the committee and to the administration to see what you think would be the most effective path forward. I'll finish by saying, I appreciate all this work, I just don't know you reporting out every month and us bashing around about it is the most effective way for us to interact. So that's my
So we do have a CPAC. I think it would be wonderful if we had somebody from this board attending the CPAC meetings, which would then, I guess, and my other question is what would be the objectives? If you had a small subcommittee, what is the objective of that committee? What are they, what would they be tasked to do?
Yeah, go ahead,
Let's
please.
speak to this. So I'm happy to be a liaison for Carlisle CPAC. Congratulations, we are part of a federation.
Okay.
So very happy to hear that we have an active CPAC parents right now. I feel like an advisory group would be helpful, and I'll say why. Because sitting on the regional committee and being a liaison to the regional side of the CPAC, I've been following what is happening on the Concord side. And even though they're a year ahead of us, they have, in many ways, they are coming off they are in a very similar situation as we are actually right now. And I see an opportunity where we can sort of get ahead, looking at what they've been going through, sort of get ahead of the game and make a bigger impact and push as we are stepping into understanding what the needs of our kids are, what things are working, what things are not working. On the regional side, Ruth Gruby, who is our new special services director for high school and the Concord, and Laurie Hunter, they had this introduction coffee Q&A and introduction to Ruth and what is happening, what kind of services and what is happening on the side of special education. So parents can understand what programs are available, what are those programs called, what they offer, what do they do for our kids. But it also opened up, this was met with, from parents, it was met with enthusiasm because it opened up an opportunity for a dialogue.
Yeah. So at our, we had a CPAC meeting where we invited every single student that had an IEP, so an invite went out, like a breakfast kind of get-together meeting. And some people came, and that's exactly what we did. We did a question and answer. As an elementary school and middle school, we don't really offer like programs per se, if that's a little bit more what you see in a high school setting than you would see in our setting. But we did a lot of discussions about I talked a lot about the IEPs at that point because that was going to be something that they were going to see and experience, and I told them about the training for the parents and whatnot. But we also realized there weren't that many people there. So we sent out the CPAC sent out a survey monkey that I'm waiting to hear the results of at our next meeting, which is next week, to find out like what's the good time for people, because maybe that wasn't a good time. What kind of questions do you have? So I'm excited that we have a CPAC that is interested to do more, and most of them are second grade parents though. So we don't have any like middle school parents, and so we have to find a way to reach out. We do have to find a way to make sure that we can open up that dialogue so it's not just at IP meetings or.
Would that be a natural place for you to go through this report at the CPAC?
Yeah, my plan was to talk to them about the report at the CPAC.
So the thing that I am hearing actually from the CPAC, the regional CPAC, is that the big comeback is that Concord will be holding another forum for actually each school, including they will be holding a forum for the high school, and they will be inviting not just the parents on the IEP kids, but because we are directing services to all of the students, and students that are in Tier 1 and Tier 2, this gives an opportunity to parents to see what is there available to our students. Who do I contact? What is the experience that I see at home with my own child? So having that opportunity for parents to weigh in is a great opportunity, because they were able to say, hi, you know, this really works great. For example, saying that I'm borrowing a child. Like, who would have thought? Borrowing a child instead of saying, you are coming out with me because you are in pull-out, it makes a big difference for that child. But getting that feedback is great, and not necessarily, you know, you will hear about this. Also, you know, our administrations and directors are not necessarily there with our kids all the time. So parents, you know, feel like their voices are heard, and they get an opportunity to come in and have the children to be seen for, you know, for what they are, for what their needs are, and really feel like there is a lot of care going into what is supposed to be a team, right? It's the parents, it's the child, and the educator. So they really feel much better about the what is happening with the education, and it really depresses a lot of the anxieties.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you know, we're going through the changes of the programs and, you know, the questions, because every day that that you are worried, the anxiety rises, and so having an advisory, I would argue that having an advisory committee would not be a bad way to bring on families from CPAC and open that conversation, and maybe do sort of like forums where everyone is invited to chime in.
So would this be in addition to the CPAC?
Well, right, I think I mean, from my view, and I want to ask Melissa to come in also, because she's got a lot of experience on the committee side and also on the budget committee. But when you go, and Jim knows this very well, when you have coffees and meet and greets, you always get a few parents. I mean, it's daytime, parents have things to do, you're never gonna get many anyway. It's good to do, we should do it. We meet with the PTO every month, and you know, you get a fair amount of people, so you get, you know, a dozen, right? But you're never gonna get, it's informational. Yes, there's some feedback, but it's largely informational outcome. What we're talking about is, as you pointed out, it's a multi-year process. There's some things, there's some overall goals, like the vision, there's an overall goal here that we want to get to. We don't, maybe, you know much better probably in your mind where you think you want to get to. We maybe don't know that as well, but definitely what Eva's saying, parents of, you know, all parents really, but certainly parents from the CPAC, parents with kids with certain needs, are very committed to what they think is their objective. And as a school committee, we have some objectives about improving what we think are shortfalls in the outcome. I think FinCom would probably, I mean, you should say, but there's a cost component to the way we approach it that needs to be balanced. I would like to see that if we form whatever we call it, advisory committee, that's a regular and a committed thing. That means we have meetings and we show up, and there's a distribution of people, try to get representation, and we can go deep dive into an area and have a discussion. We can pull back and say, okay, how does that fit in the multi-year plan? We can say what the cost component, I mean, and I know you're doing that anyway, but the point is with elected officials in the town, there's a component of oversight that I personally take, you know, very seriously. So that's what I'm trying to balance, and if I may ask the chairman to recognize either one of the, or two of the budget people in the audience.
Absolutely. Melissa Rivero, Scott Triola.
I'm not sure what part.
Well, if, for example, you know, you or somebody was part of such a committee and then brought a budgetary perspective to that, I don't know if that's useful.
I don't know. I'm not sure if that's.
I mean, we're trying to balance all these things, right? So.
One, we're restricted on being on other committees.
Well, maybe that's an answer to that question.
I mean, I think there's also there's a degree of separation in that you ultimately oversee the school budget, and you need to advise on the top line number. I think one thing that's important is that anything that has a budgetary impact, and you know the constraints of the town, we don't have a lot of growth.
Right.
It's highly residential, so any increases anywhere in town, ultimately the taxpayer, there's a real constraint there. We don't have new sources of revenue coming in. So it's either shifting where you're spending your budget or if it's increasing budget, there's gonna be a lot of questions and we're gonna require a lot of justification on that. The recent example was the full-time kindergarten. And I think in that case, the town has traditionally supported the schools very well, but I do think there is an expectation, A, that the homework is done. So any program there'd be a lot of questions from a lot of quarters about making sure the due diligence was done. And B, the impact is measurable and that you're getting the bang for your buck. So I do think there needs to be a process, there needs to be justification, there needs to be due diligence around this. As to like how would it be received, I mean that's.
Well, I wasn't going.
Should someone on FinCom sit on this committee? I don't think so.
I would put out this, so I think first off, we have a lot of recommendations here. And the work that we do, like a lot of the recommendations, a lot of the thinking we're putting forward into planning for next year is how do we, just to relieve the budget, but how do we do this with the resources we have? We are not looking to expand those resources. I would say, I think we have the CPAC, and it's really just coming online. So if we're gonna have an advisory, I would encourage and funnel people into the CPAC to make that, bolster that, strengthen that, give that a more vital role in the work of the district. I think the other piece though is we have, this is a goal, right? Special education is a school committee goal. If we wanna create a subcommittee of this committee to really take some time on a regular basis, sit down, let's get into what are we doing and what progress have we made, and have that opportunity to really delve in and ask challenging, difficult questions and like have that conversation.
Right, I'd rather do that in a smaller,
I think that would make sense with, in any other community, I think we could report out to the CPAC and therefore make the CPAC more valuable, vital to everyone else in.
Because there's certain things we can't talk about. We're such a small community and we've got like some high need kids that
we would never get
we can't talk about. But I know that, but like, we're so small that like, if there's certain students that I started to talk about, everybody's gonna know who I'm talking about.
So we're not gonna do it.
So we're not gonna do it.
Well, I do agree, maybe a small subcommittee. To my point is that we should, because the SPED is such a big part of our budget, and we should be giving its proper time. So we're not doing this on the fly. We're not just looking at a report and getting a report card or a presentation and just checking it off. So maybe we should have a small subcommittee just to go over this, and then we can also engage, as you started already, through forums and coffees and Q&As with the CPAC, the new CPAC members.
Melissa, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I don't want to speak as a FinCom member. Nice to meet you. I just want to speak a little bit, like very high level on what you guys are suggesting is very Carlisle, right? And so, welcome to Carlisle. This is a very engaged town. It's a town run by volunteers. It's a town with unbelievably committed parents who want to see the school be the best it can be, and that's what we expect. And so, I think that is the very high level point, and I would welcome it and wrap your arms around it, and it will all be great. Because people are just trying to help. And so that's my high level point. My other point is something that other administrators have said, and I've heard Jim say as well. And again, this is just as a citizen that I'm saying this. We owe giving the best that we can give to the students who deserve to succeed. We also owe to our fellow taxpayers in town a commitment that we're doing the best with these resources that we can. And I think, to me, that's what we're trying to achieve here in moving forward and making progress in this area.
Thank you.
One other thought to something you said at the last meeting about visioning, and you don't just want a blue sky, and you do, but you also need to do it with the understanding of budget constraints. And so maybe there's an opportunity, and I'd be happy to come meet at one of the meetings where you say, look, I mean, this year we're looking at a maintained service budget, and that's basically around 3%. And we can all sit here and say, generally to maintain existing services is around 3%. And in this town, we can't afford much above that. So I do think the discussions ultimately need to fold back into this concept of how do we make the most with what we have. If there are initiatives to try, how do we do it in the most responsible manner? Because it's a real challenge. Just to maintain what we have is what a lot of people would consider unsustainable in terms of growth. 2% is what a lot of people consider sustainable. So I do think there needs to be a lot of discussion and creativity, but I do think the people involved need to also have a perspective of what the budgetary constraints are. And if there's a way to remind people or educate people about that, I mean, I think that's a role I'd be happy to.
Well, I agree with you, and in the kind of engineering world that I live in the daytime, we call it cost trades, right? You have to make cost trades of things that you want to get done. And we do live in that constrained box, so it's sort of a zero-sum game, if you will, but really, at school committee, because we eventually have to defend that budget, real clarity, if, you say you're living in the budget that we've set, and I appreciate that, but going out multi-years, which is really the perspective we should have as a committee, it may be, needs are increasing, I shouldn't say needs are increasing, the recognition of what children need, you know better than anybody, is increasing.
Yes.
And therefore, it is possible that the new normal is more intervention spending, I won't say spending, more intervention spending, which means that something else has to give. That, to echo Melissa's point, it's a very Carlisle thing for this body and whoever else they draw on to be deeply engaged in that particular thing and drawing on everybody's expertise. So yeah, I think we're kind of all coalescing around the same idea. Carrie, do you wish to add anything? As a PTO or a parent?
Just that, to Emma's point about coming together with CPAC, yeah, they're very new. I know all the, happens to be mothers on CPAC, and they're very new to the school. As she said, like, they all have younger children. So while I know they definitely want to be involved, I can't speak for them. The sense I've gotten from them is none of them are ready to take the lead on anything. They would definitely need a lot of guidance because they're new and they're still learning. So I definitely think it would be a great way to bring them in, and because they have a lot. Well, I know I do. I have 2 IEP kids, and there's still a lot I need to learn. So it is a very new. Although Carol Young, I've been working with her because I'm on SAC now at the high school, and I'm the liaison for that CPAC in the high school. So, but she's already talked to them and through me. So we do have resources that have a lot of experience, but it is an extremely new CPAC. So just put that out there.
Unfortunately, from a budgetary perspective, with special ed, you have these anomalies, right? Like we had a student move from another town, and he's never been in and he's an out-of-district placement, and it's going to cost us $100,000 a year because they moved. And we wouldn't be able to service them even if we don't have the type of programming that we can service.
No, I think there's an understanding of that. I'm talking more programmatic or.
Right, and that's where we have to put some time in.
We know that there's inherent variability and unpredictability in a district of one school. 1 or 2 kids makes a giant swing in budget. There will always be that kind of variation. I think we're all.
Right, but I think we progressed on that, and it's a tail wag the dog thing, right? And I am also guilty of this in the years that we've been doing it, of pointing out that unpredictability of that out-of-district cost. But really, I agree with you, and especially as we've now decided to treat the contingency of it a little bit differently. If we there's a piece that we can't control, or we have minimal control on, and it's gonna be big chunks, okay, done. The meat of it is obviously, you know, out of the, I don't know how many hundreds of kids in the system are in some kind of tier support, lots of them. Most of them are just in tier support, and that's really where this is going and where you're going and where we should be going. So I don't know where we come out with this, and maybe we need a month to reflect on it, but it sounds like we could set something up where it would be accretive, not, you know, it should be helpful, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily to you in your daily work, but for the town to feel like it's engaged in the process, that would be the goal.
So what is, I think a subcommittee of the school committee.
Yeah.
We can have both, right? A
Right.
subcommittee of the school committee would be helpful, I think, to the school committee, right? In the process.
Right.
In its work, so that every time we come and have a report, we don't have to do it every month.
Right, we
The
should.
subcommittee can get that and give an update at the other meeting, but also working with the CPAC and using that as a focus area to generate the focus groups that you talked about planning and finding those times at work and trying to expand that group, right? Get more people involved as that becomes a forum for these conversations, and then make sure that we connect the subcommittee reports as you reported out to the CPAC as a way to disseminate that information. That's what I would recommend, like, we would look at both, and we could create a subcommittee this evening and start that process.
Just want to open the door for, Sarah, do you have anything you want to add into the conversation?
No, I mean, I think that everybody's made good points of the, you know, and of course, yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna really make good things. No, I'm supportive of the school committee making a subcommittee of some sort. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I just want to make sure that you know that the next CPAC meeting is Tuesday, the 19th.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have this on my schedule, thank you.
Good, thank you.
All right, so do we want to act on this now, or do we want to think about it? I mean, I hate to actually give it another month to think about it.
Yeah, because
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
the work is in progress.
So, yeah, well, I think we could just say who'd like to volunteer for it, and then hopefully there'll be two.
Can't be more than two.
Can't be more
Otherwise
than
it's a
two.
committee.
I'm happy to volunteer because I'm in contact with regional
That's
CPAC
helpful.
and CPAC here at Carlisle.
Okay.
It's a subcommittee, so you don't have a choice.
What?
It's a subcommittee, so it's public, you don't have a choice.
Oh, it's gonna be public, of course it's gonna
Right,
be.
so.
Oh, yeah.
2 or 3 or 4, whatever.
Oh, no, but isn't 3 would be considered a full school committee meeting, wouldn't it?
Are we getting in trouble if we have 3 instead
I
of 4?
think it needs to
We were
be.
told it only did.
Well, let's see how many people volunteer.
Yeah.
As opposed to just do my job. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, so we've gone with two.
Two's
I'd
good.
like the policy.
Who are you two?
Well, we have to make a
Evan
motion.
Mustafi and,
Do we need to vote this or just?
No.
just
no, we didn't vote on the other.
Yes.
Let's just make subcommittees.
I move that we form a subcommittee to liaise with the school on special education. And that myself and, can I make a motion about myself?
Yeah.
Guys?
And Eva
would not be.
be the members.
Okay,
David
we
needs
got
a second to his motion.
All right, can you repeat the motion, please?
The motion
Just a second.
The motion is that we form a subcommittee to liaise with the school on special education matters or, you know, planning, and that myself and Eva would be the first two representatives until it changes, until we decide to change.
Can I vote? No, I can't second, right?
You can't second, you can sort of vote.
I'd be happy to second that motion to form a subcommittee to liaison into the special ed committee.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, should we
Sorry,
do
any discussion?
You have to vote.
a roll call vote?
Actually, I'm sorry,
Oh.
before we do discussion, I just want to clarify and have on the record that this is not, the subcommittee, it does not include Lori Bruce. We would not be discussing students at this meeting.
No.
but
It's
that
a public meeting, it should be,
But it's a public
conducted
meeting,
as a
so
public
therefore
meeting.
no student information will be shared.
All the normal protocols.
But I'm clarify that.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so roll call vote?
Modell, aye.
Sarah?
Lear, aye.
Mustafi, aye?
Library, aye.
All right, so I'll leave it to you guys to
So we'll
decide when you're gonna
separately
meet.
figure out when we can meet, yep.
I'm not free to go.
You're free to go.
Thank you, Laurie, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Christina.
How are ya?
Good, thank you.
Want to do a little update?
Sure.
This is where we're at with this year's budget.
Yes, so you all saw the 2 budget updates in the packet. The first is the standard template we've used year after year. And I just wanted to refer to that to let people know we've spent 22% of our operating budget.
You'll email.
Do you want a copy? I asked, do you want to?
Oh, sure.
Do you have the other one on the other side of that? Yeah. So we've spent 22%. We've gone a little over in water, which we understood was happening because of our water issue. And we are a little over in transportation, but we have yet to use up our fees that we've collected. So we're in good standing otherwise. If you look at the second budget template.
Okay, before you leave the first one.
Yes.
So we're 108 ahead of pace? That 108,000?
That's free at this point.
I mean, if everything that was encumbered is paid and nothing new happens, that's
Yeah,
what you have left over.
But I anticipate.
Of course.
Yes.
That's where we are. Right
Yes.
now. Better than the negative.
108 free cash right now. All else, including all payroll lines, have been encumbered. So then the second page is a new document designed by Scott to assist us. And I will be sending that to Scott and our school committee, our selectman rep, Barney. And this has our budget on the left, broken out in a different way than the standard template that I use. And he thought maybe more explanatory to the committees that were looking for information. And so what you see on the right is year-to-date, what we've spent in those lines. So the bottom line is the same. We've spent $2,556,621. Of our full budget without offsets, we've spent 20.8%. Of our approved budget after offsets of $11,559,266, it matches the previous slide. We have spent 22%.
And 25% would be even, Stephen?
Correct.
But it's a little skewed because it was a summertime quarter, right?
That is correct. The first 3 months, or 2 months, July and August are.
So you can't really draw conclusions from the first quarter, right?
Right, and we had prepays for out-of-district. Now we're getting back into paying out-of-district bills. So you'll see the next quarterly report.
Yeah, so it'll be, as we approach the full year, it gets more and more fidelity.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
And does this go to FinCom or town? Who gets this?
Well, I'm gonna send it to Scott and maybe you could forward it to Barney because I don't think I know her email address. But he, you know.
Does that meet what you thought you wanted, this form?
Yeah.
He designed it.
Well,
You did, yeah.
I know, but I mean populated. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything on that you see that you'd like to revise? Scott?
I mean, I'll go through it.
Okay. All right.
Okay. We'll, I'll share this on, our next meeting is on Monday, so I'll
Okay.
share it. And if people have any questions or comments.
Yes, absolutely. Any questions?
No, I mean, I have a question, Scott, since we're on budget. Just more broadly, so we presented, you guys are doing your crystal balling and all this stuff, right?
Yes,
Doing all that stuff,
we have the
right?
crystal ball is on order from Amazon.
And my kids use the Ouija, the 8-ball thing.
Yeah,
So
those
do you
are
ask them like, will we have any money this
We
year?
have too many hands.
But, so guideline letter would come out?
It'll come out second week in December, mid-December. So we will, we have a couple meetings in November. We'll start to look at the budget. As a total, we'll have a meeting, a coordination meeting with the Board of Selectmen the first week of December. We'll meet again as a FinCom to evaluate the guideline, and then we'll put the guideline letter out probably the week of December 16th, 17th.
Have you seen CCHS yet?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Where is it?
No, it's gonna be good news. Lower assessment.
No number, we just know our allocation is going down.
Oh, that's.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll be, pretty sure it's gonna, you're gonna be okay with it.
So.
They don't let us in as much on that side. Till
So,
they
you know,
make their number.
Jared does.
I'll let you know when the coordination meeting is, if someone from the school committee wants to attend that.
Coordination meeting?
With the board of selectmen, FinCom with the
Oh,
board of
yeah.
selectmen, to review the budget, discuss.
Sarah should go to that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Sarah, did you hear that? I know it's
I'll-
kind of hard to hear.
There's plenty of time.
No, that last piece is here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send out a note about when that will be. But it's it's process.
Normal process.
Normal process.
Okay, very good.
Excellent,
I'm
thank
good.
you. That's
Thank you,
really
Ms.
good.
The
All right.
last time giving, each time is the last, this is the
Yeah.
last
Last
budget.
November.
Yeah, it's the last first quarter report.
Maybe as a follow-up, you said that certain things didn't boil up the way. If there anything that doesn't work for you, let me know.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Scott,
Yeah.
Melissa.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Okay, so then we're moving on
You can come to our meeting on Monday.
to the business manager posting. As we know, our Sue is moving on. So it's gonna be very hard to replace. But we're gonna try. So we thought we would look at the job description together. Because when would you like to post it, Jen?
I think I would like to post it, what did I say? Next week or two.
Next week.
I think
There's
the
a
next
lot of
week,
ads out there right now.
So we wanna get in the middle of that.
Yeah.
and I think we want to have the deadline closed probably the week after the new year.
Okay. All right,
And then we can talk more about what that process is, so yeah. from that.
okay. So does anyone have any suggestions on?
Where are you going with A? Is B supposed to be a little bit more?
Just a couple of
comprehensive?
different prompts for us to start looking at, talk about. See if anyone gravitates. to
So
one or the other.
are there industry norms here? Does this follow the language that people would be?
Yeah, I have one that has more of the norms, but yeah, he's got a lot of what the general postings include.
Yeah. Is it a school committee hire or?
It is a school committee hire.
So does MASC have a template job description?
Well, I printed one out for, I want to say it's Rentham, but I can't remember. That's a equivalent size district
Yeah.
that I can email to
Oh, that would be
the
good.
committee.
But we should ask Dorothy too. I mean, they might have a template.
I got mine off the MASBO site, and MASBO is the Business Manager
Okay. Oh,
Association.
So I got a question on the B one. Master's degree, do we really need a master's degree?
No, I mean, I'm speaking from experience.
Just
but-
throwing out some, that's what I mean, this
So they
is the
often-
prompt discussion.
Yeah.
They will often say bachelor's or equivalent experience, master's preferred or
Yeah.
desired.
So that's what they've got here, master's degree or equivalent preferred.
But I'm questioning the reasoning of it.
I mean, honestly, if I were to evaluate, I'd say if you were a district like a,
Brookline.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, where you have, 12 schools or something, and it's just a huge district.
So here's a question, that's a very good question. If not, qualifications aside,
Yep,
if I present two candidates, one is already a business manager of a district, a small district,
yep.
and the other one is at an assistant level, at the next level down of a larger district, but ready for the step. What's your and your general
I would give
feeling?
them equal time.
I mean,
There's a lot of education for that person who's the assistant in the office. I think they could be just as valuable.
And then it's who you,
I mean, of
it's the
course
people
it's
you
the-
meet, right?
no, of course, but I'm just saying,
I will say that
You're gonna
they
be-
have to be certified by DESI. And
does that mean they're already a business manager, or can you be certified at a lower
No, you have to be a certified business
You
manager.
could have a certification but
However,
not be
That's what I
using
mean.
us.
Carlisle is a district, and this was an opportunity offered to me, who has hired somebody without the certification on the condition you get it like the first year you're hired.
Right.
I got mine that way, but I'd already been in the office for
You've been working years.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
I remember that crappy office you had in the old Spalding.
You remember that?
Very well, actually.
So
Yes, too.
Steve Moore, who,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember him.
I remember Steve.
He got it while he was here. Heidi Zimmerman started to get it. And I did get it. But the person to be a business manager has to have their DESI certification.
Right.
And there's a licensure program at
But
MASBO.
they could say they're going to get it.
Yes, but you have to hold it to that.
Oh, of course, then they. Okay. So what's your process, Jim? I mean, you want us to add comments, or
Yeah,
send you comments?
I
or-
think if you want to send comments and thoughts, I'd like to just get
Okay.
a posting, get it out there in public.
Yeah.
I think this is one where we also can work through channels and let people
Yeah.
know at the state level and
Sure.
MASS, MASC,
Yep.
friends and family.
Yeah, friends of the
Make
Yes.
them aware of what's out there and they can put the word out into their
You want
groups.
Yeah, so I'd say send the templates.
We'll just post it, yeah.
Yeah.
Send the templates, we'll turn around.
Yeah. So,
I'll send you the template and I'll send you, I mean, Jim kind of took what I gave him and
Yeah.
his own
We're not gonna
thoughts.
deliberate, we'll just send you,
Yep.
we'll send suggestions and you guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And often they'll have a sample question or something on the application.
You're looking for a new business manager, not an old business manager? You don't need the word new.
We don't use those words.
No, but I mean, you
no,
know,
she means,
Like,
Right.
we're looking for a new
You're looking
business
for a
manager.
business.
Somebody new in the position.
Right, you don't,
so where are you seeing the word new?
new is
Option
implied. When you're looking for a position, new is implied, obviously.
For
Yeah.
a business manager.
It's an extra word in the second.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, you don't wanna say that, right?
No, you don't want to say new.
No, right, you don't wanna say,
Thank
I
you.
get you, thank you.
Actually,
Yes.
I would be
So-
interested in hearing,
Semi-new.
in addition to maybe helping us tweak the description, I'd really be interested in your ideas about interview questions.
The question.
Yeah, that's a good idea,
questions, like,
I
yeah,
had,
like-
I had 3 or 4.
okay.
I'll forward you that
Because
stuff.
you are in the best position to be like, I'd be looking for this to replace myself.
But I
These are
also-
important qualifications.
I also know that working in this district is so unique compared to many school districts. I mean, there's not many in the state anymore that are like pre-K through 8.
Yeah.
You know, we're very unique. And when I go to conferences and professional meetings, the presenter may ask a question of districts and they're like, yeah, I hear from you, you're from Carlisle. You know, because we are just
Unique,
so
anomaly.
we are unique. We're highly regarded.
And this is one of those few positions where I think we would actually have the person leaving the role, if they were willing to serve on the committee, serve on the committee. Like, oftentimes, you don't have that,
Right.
but
That
this
would
is
be-
one of those,
Oh, I definitely would love that.
there's only one of you, right?
Yeah.
For the whole
Yeah.
district, and you know what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd
that would
be
be
good to have
great,
it
so,
done.
it would. All right, so if you can send
Pencils.
that job description
Yeah.
template to all of us, we just need to get our notes back to Sue or Jim or both.
I
Why
would
don't you send it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, so send your comments to Jim as soon as you can so that he can get moving on it.
And then I think it should go in School Spring and at MASBO's site and probably MASS.
Yeah, and then I have some people I can send it out to, and you have somebody you can
Yeah.
send it out to who can disseminate in their groups and
Yep.
spread it around. Very good.
Okay. Great.
Are there opportunities to bring somebody from inside the school to this position?
I don't believe we have anyone inside the school who is on a track or has the interest
People
in
want to
it.
work year-round. I tell a lot of people, I mean, I've known for a year, and when I hear of somebody whose spouse is in business or, you know, starting out after college, and I'll say, you know, they really should go get their DESI certification.
Yeah.
It's a great job. But people don't really understand what it's all about unless they've already been in a school district.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, all right, that's great. So now we're gonna move on to the visioning. Shannon, did you?
We don't have an agenda for tonight. The main thing the letter went out. Jim sent out an invitation to people and got a response rate that was pretty high. Almost everyone who initially indicated that they were interested agreed to come to the first meeting, which I believe is scheduled for November 20th.
Wednesday the 20th at 4 p.m. Absolutely.
So that's when the party really gets started.
Great. That's exciting.
So we did send it, so we had a group who attended the information sessions. So they were a certain mailing list, then we did republish it for all parents this week. They received that, just in case there's still people out there that are interested, they can respond and let us know. And then I was gonna send it out today, but I lifted another mailing list that I need to send it out to. I lifted it from the Master Planning Steering Committee.
Oh, good.
So we got some people at the Master Planning Committee who are not they don't have children in the school, so I sent it to a couple of them individually, but I said I could just use that whole group and see if we can bring in a few people who might be interested in.
Good idea. That was a good group.
So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
I will follow up with you, Jim, to talk about whatever preparation we need to do.
Yeah, so I think
PowerPoint
tomorrow, I
deck
think I'll have
example.
something for you to
Okay.
review on the agenda.
All right, excellent.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so Sarah and I have been meeting, Eva actually joined us for a couple, doing the school committee policies, reviewing them with Jim, and we have, I think, 9 left that will be done next week.
Wow.
So we've gone through 1/3 of all of the policies. We will have gone through 1/3 of all the policies by the end of next week. And then what we think we need to do is we need to schedule a meeting for this group outside this meeting to go through them. And the nice thing is Nancy has organized them so that we have some that they just didn't need a lot of tweaking. And others that, really needed some work. So we thought, if we're diligent and maybe if there's a pizza, we could probably.
Forget pizza, we need beer.
I'll bring you a pint.
Yeah.
That we could get through these. So we were thinking in January.
So when you say get through, you would explain your rationale, rather than us duplicating your work, you would explain it was like this and we did this.
What Nancy's done is she's tracked the changes, and you'll be able to review those tracked changes before we get together, so that you can see what our logic was, see what the changes were that we made.
Right, but I guess from my standpoint, what slowed us down in the past,
Is the discussion.
yeah, it wasn't so much the changes, it was like, why do we have this policy? What is our objective? It would be, from my view, again, channeling my inner Josh,
I hear him.
would be in a succinct way, okay, here's the no smoking policy. Here are the issues we have, like, does it count, is marijuana covered? Is it important? I mean, not so granular, right? Does it cover all the situations? Is it compliant with, state law? Does it comport with the mask policy? We looked at this stuff and, you just kind of, and maybe you just say, look, the policy was fine as is, or we had to change these 3 things. Just get us insight into the issues, because looking at the markup, I guess we could see that, but,
Sorry, David, can you speak up?
well, okay.
Yeah, well, I would say this, that
I'm on low battery there, I can see it. You may need to change her out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did go, some people looked at even at other school policies, other
Right.
district policies to see what the changes, the comparisons were. Every one of them was compared to
No, I know,
MASC.
but I'm just saying, if you highlight
Yeah,
this,
we can put a little header on each of the policies that, just say, the change below were prompted by one, because there are 2 reasons. One was mostly to be in accordance with MASC, legal, and it got very technical, that kind of stuff, or that if we need to update legal references and whatnot, or, based on conversations with the school nurses, we updated the following policy to
Right.
reflect.
yeah, that would be helpful.
So like a little intro to each one.
I think that I'm happy to put little headers on them to sort of highlight, so you don't have to go back and look at, legal reference 313 point whatever, We don't need to get into
We don't want to do that.
all that. I think that's what the way the planning subcommittee was.
Yep, maybe if we can pick a date, what date and time works, and I can work all that out and I can just kind of lead in each one and we'll go with that.
Okay. Do we want to choose a date in January now, or do we want to?
When's our school committee?
Our school committee meeting is the 8th.
Sorry, I'm
Do you
gonna
know the
have a
region? I don't have my
Did we
calendar.
put in a tentative?
Sarah's
We did
got my
not.
calendar here, so.
I'm dialing.
Are you dialing now?
Yeah.
So we.
Sarah, we're gonna switch phones on you, okay?
Last one we had was a morning, would that work, or is that, was that?
Hi, Sarah. I'm gonna put you on the other. Hi.
I think it would be nice to have a morning, but I don't know how, it's Sarah and, oh no, Shannon, you can't do a morning.
If we do a 7:30, I could do it, if you guys are willing.
How long could it be?
Write that down.
Not 7, but 7:30. I'm trying to get you to do 7. I mean,
How long do you
would
think
this
it'll
be
take
like
us, Jen?
an hour and a half kind of meeting?
Sure.
Yeah, I think an hour and a half,
Well, we're gonna be brain dead anyway.
2 at the most.
No, really, there's a lot, it's a lot to go
But
through.
if we go, if
Bring coffee.
Yeah.
If we're all in a good place with the changes, right, and we have a little introduction and explanation why we took the approach, and then things go smoothly, we should be able to do it in an hour and a half.
Yep.
Let's do it. Okay, so do you want to look at a morning?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Next year.
Is there a day that works better for you particularly, for anyone?
All right, I can't do Tuesdays.
Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday. Wednesday, okay. 15th or the 22nd?
Wednesday the 15th? Sure.
How about, Sarah, how about you? What days?
The 15th, was it Wednesday the 15th, did you say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be there in person. There's some, I have some travel the first 2 weeks of January, but I haven't now.
We need her there, so.
I'll try to work it around.
What about the 22nd?
Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
hear what you said.
22nd.
That would be great.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Much better.
After school committee.
Do you guys need me? Dave?
What, honey?
Yes,
Am I necessary to be there?
absolutely.
I have to check because we might be flying for college.
Yeah, we definitely want you there.
So
So
maybe we
let's,
should.
Pencil it in.
I'll pencil it in. I'll pencil it in and I'll.
You find out.
22nd, is that
Yes.
what we decided?
Yeah.
so it's 7:30 to 9. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Eva, you can just let us know,
Yes.
PM.
ASAP, AM.
AM. They were at the bottom of the page, isn't
Okay. Jim, you'll get us a room.
Okay.
Nancy will get us a room.
7 o'clock, 7:30, what did you say?
7:30.
Email Nancy right now.
Yes, I'll email.
Okay.
All right, that's great. Okay, so, and thanks to the folks who've been working so hard on it. Any correspondence?
Oh, I do have a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Christine, you have one. I just threw the mask bulletin in there, but I don't think you guys need it. This was something that was left over from last meeting, David, it was in, we never got to.
All right, so we'll send that around. Superintendent's report.
Very nice.
We'll do it this month.
All right, let's go with some upcoming events. So tomorrow night, we have the middle school band concert. Tomorrow night at 6, if you're looking for something to do, should be exciting.
It's Elizabeth's birthday.
So going back in October, we did have, maybe it was in late September, we had our safety training with Chief Fisher and the Carlisle Police Department. We are scheduled for what we'll call the lockdown drill on November 21st in the afternoon. That's going to be run in conjunction with Chief Fisher and the Carlisle Police Department. And we'll be sending notifications out there. This is one of those drills that everyone knows what's taking place.
Oh, okay.
Students, teachers, parents, everybody will be aware that we're going to go through this process. So we also have an interesting thing going on with our 7th grade, doing an authentic science experiment. Ralph Ricardo had this, he was doing some training with the custodians around something that cleans handles and railings and everything. So he has this new technique. So working with the 7th grade team, we're gonna test that technique. They're doing a little swabbing bacteria growth to see if the new technique
Oh my gosh,
or
that's
the
so
old
cool.
technique or no technique at all, which is actually best for cleaning things, right? So then we in preparation for cold and flu season, we think it's gonna be
Excellent, I love it.
We'll be waiting for a couple days to get the report back, and hopefully we find out that this technique is really effective, and then we'll use it everywhere. Or we find out it's not very effective, and we'll stick to the old process.
Send it back to Amazon.
Couple other projects taking place. So the elevator for Corey, the work is still going on there, and it is projected to be done early December. We knew it was gonna be a long process when we approached it back in the summertime, and it's taken a long time. Winter's on us, and we do have students who do need to get downstairs, so it's becoming a challenge. We also received a proposal and specifications for the grant elevator. So the grant elevator is coming up to what would be called its end of life cycle, and it might be good for us to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
So we have a
definitely.
proposal for that, I'll share. We also have the water filtration system. The engineers are working on the second piece of the filtration system, which we need to have in place, and we need to get into place. So that process is ongoing, but the water will continue to flow, and we're not gonna be brought into
Where we were.
any place close. We did receive just yesterday afternoon the HVAC study estimate that we had done. So Sue and Rob and I are gonna meet and talk about that. And then I'll see if I can scan it in and share that with everyone for you to take a look at. They did a nice job. They looked at a variety of different options, kind of told us why these options wouldn't be the best. Gave us two options that were possibilities, but really they preferred a certain approach that they found was most economical. The number might be a little shocking, but they do compartmentalize where we can do it in piecemeal. The system they recommend allows us to do it.
So they're not recommending a central.
No, they're not recommending a central one system approach. So that, I'll share the numbers with you. The overall number was pretty large.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll
Evidence
talk
for
about
you.
that. And then also, at one of the finance committee meetings, the finance committee asked us to take the lead on the phone project and try to coordinate that for the town. So we had our first meeting for the phone committee this week, and we're doing a little more research as we're gonna try to get the specs for what we all need in the different town departments, and then take that out to bid once we have the specs in place, and see if we can get a good price for everybody's phone systems to be updated at the same time. Those are a couple of projects working on. Master planning. What is the master planning?
You went to that meeting.
You were at the master planning meeting with us also.
The first one, yes.
I was at the
Oh,
next
Christine,
one.
you went too.
Oh, that, okay.
Yeah, and then the second one.
So, I think the committee has good representation at the master planning, and that process is moving forward. And it's an interesting dynamic, because what I learned at that meeting was it really informs the work we're trying to do with the visioning committee. And that's why even that mailing is, how do we get information out, and how do we bring information back? And that's the conversation that they're doing with Civic Moxie, so we're kind of picking up some hints and techniques to how we can use that in other spaces. What else do we have? Yeah, we talked about West Ed, subcommittee. So on October 23rd and 24th, the Massachusetts Computer Using Educators, is called MassQ, had a conference down in Foxborough. So a couple of us had the opportunity to attend. I went down for a day, Matt went down for a day. But Maya Berry and Ann Spiegel were down for both days, and both of them were presenting. So Ann presented on both days. She presented on digital portfolios. On one day, I had the opportunity to attend that, and then Maya was also presenting on global connectivity. So it was pretty impressive to have our people at the conference presenting. Couple other things. The 5th and 2nd grade buddies, this is the 10th annual coat drive. So if you have new coats or slightly
clean,
what's the word they usually
Gently
used coats that you want to donate, that would be great. It's just a great activity to help people out who may not have.
And pajamas
everything they
too.
need. And pajamas also. One of the other things,
Pajamas.
Husky Home Day. So we talked about this a couple of months ago. The Husky Home Day, which is that approach to snow cancellations. We ran it once last year as a pilot. We used it, we got some feedback to fine tune it, we got impressions from parents and teachers. This is the last year the state's gonna let us use those alternative learning time schedules. So our plan is that we are gonna use it. The first 3 days we have, which is snow days, we will have traditional snow days. Kids stay home, we add the date at the end of the year, and that's how it goes. After the third day, the fourth day, and fifth day, we're gonna go to the Husky home days, and hopefully we'll go up to 5, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
We will reassess, right, depending on how many we have at that point in time, we'll reassess and then communicate how again. But I just wanted, we mentioned that approach earlier, I just want to confirm that with all of you, you're comfortable, because I'm gonna communicate that.
We
up
have
to
5 in
parents.
the calendar.
We have 5 in the calendar, so our last day of school now is scheduled for Monday, the 15th, is it?
So pretty early, so there's plenty of room.
It's Monday, June 15th, so if we have 3, it gets us to Thursday, the 18th.
Oh, I thought the 15th includes 5 snow days or?
No, that's,
Oh, okay.
the 5 Sundays
I
will
see.
bring us to the 22nd.
I see, okay, that's.
Yeah, 22nd.
Okay.
So I think it's a good, we're already in that week. Parents, as we said, parents were the least supportive of the whole thing. And those people that did support it, were like, let's have some traditional snow days for us, so before it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So I think it'll work. And I think that's all I have for the superintendent.
The parents were less supportive than the kids?
Well, I think parents had, kids supported, right? Teachers support, everybody was in support of it. Parents, so for the younger parents, oftentimes they were called upon to do some of that support work that needed to be in place. And then there was a lot of questions like, it seems like a good idea, but last year we had 9 snow days, and this year we had 1, and shouldn't we have a couple of these regular snow days before we go there?
I didn't take it down the rabbit hole.
No, that's okay.
I thought kids would be like, bleh, it's the worst, because they want to just goof off on snow days.
Yeah, well, they don't have to do it all that day.
Everybody just looks at
they
it.
Yeah.
That June day, right?
Right.
Everybody saw it in that light.
It's a
like,
good trick, it's a
you
good
don't
trick.
have to come back.
2 hours of work and some hot chocolate.
Yeah, really.
Sitting in a sweltering classroom, June 22nd.
Yes.
That's where your executive function training comes in.
Yes.
The kids that make that, don't eat the M&M right now, test, do well.
Okay, so do we have any committee reports, like the region?
Yes. Next regional school committee meeting is upcoming, November 19th at 6:30. We heard, we had a long time CCHS teacher pass, so we have a little information. Should I share that? That Richard Sederstone passed away, and there is a foundation memorial scholarship in his name set up through Scholarship Fund of Concord and Carlisle.
A little louder, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, sure. So Richard Sederstone passed away October 18, 2019. He was a director of personnel for 27 years and then a teacher at CCHS for many more. Family requests that any donations in lieu of flowers be made in memorial scholarship in his name through the Scholarship Fund of Concord and Carlisle to benefit our high school students graduating from Concord Carlisle High School.
That's it. Okay. Any other committee reports? Kids have been attending the municipal facilities committee meetings, and they're fascinating. But they haven't bumped into us yet. Rich goes to as many of those as he can. Rob goes to as many of those as he can too. And then the community center committee had a grant to have a building designed, and they've gone through that process. The grant ends the end of this month, so they're gonna try to do a presentation of what the facility would look like. But again, it's sort of all theoretical at this point. It has to go through.
Is it dovetailing into the master planning?
Yes, it will at some point, but they've sort of been going. You kind of have to plan both ways, with and without master planning. So But there's a big financial hurdle there at some point, so, but it's interesting, so. Any other committee reports?
Back to region, and just, we spent an inordinate amount of time evaluating trips, particularly international
Yeah.
trips, which we don't have here, but we have, a few out-of-state trips. So I did send a note to you and Jim. I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of it. I identified a few things that came up, so I'll just read them. I don't want to deliberate them now, but we should make sure that our waiver is comprehensive, and I'm sure there's examples we can get. I presume we have Cory checks on everybody who's on a trip. A big thing came up with, making sure that all the teachers and any volunteer leaders have a kind of consistent training.
Yeah.
So we're developing a training program at the region for that. It was pretty ad hoc considering the incredible array of trips and where they go for 2 weeks, and,
Yeah.
there was really no standard of training. So I think we should, you guys should just look at that. And then the last one, are we clear on our insurance coverage when we go off on these trips?
When you said that, I thought I didn't call Tim Goddard, but this insurance with the 8th grade trip.
Well, the provider provides some insurance. I just want to make sure, insurance people always tell you where the gaps are, right? So
Right, I'll call.
we should just make sure that, as Court Booth said, everything's fine till it's not.
Right.
We've been lucky, we've always had great trips, but
right,
something happens and, all of a sudden we wake up, so we should make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Katie. All right, so we've got two warrants. There's the payroll warrant and the accounts payable warrant. All set?
Yep.
We did our action items because.
Believe it or not, Sarah came in today at 12:30 and signed those warrants.
Thank you, Sarah.
And
who's
now
not
she's.
really here.
Where is she? Where are
Thank
you,
you,
Sarah?
Sarah.
Yeah, where are you?
Sarah?
Yep, no problem.
Where are you?
I'm in New York now.
Oh, okay. All right. Any citizens' comments? Oh, Karen Patel.
Just back to your subcommittee, not CPAC, but you know what I'm talking about. Will that be open to CPAC and other members besides the two of you?
Yes, it's my understanding, I looked at the rules, I checked with Dorothy Presser, I think we can open it to anybody. If there's a vote to be taken, it's only school committee members who can vote.
That's fine, I just, as somebody who goes to a lot of different,
No, I think
we have a
we
lot
will.
of, we have CPAC, we have PTO, we have school committee, we have,
Right.
but we don't have a lot of, like cohesion,
Right.
that they don't all,
Right.
I think we need to
You
have
don't see
an
anybody else here from,
organizational, now that we've had this discussion, I think we need to circle back, maybe the four of us meet and kind of figure out the organizational ground rules. But I would, from my standpoint, I'd certainly be in favor of including, broadening the circle.
Yeah, as many voices.
Well, I wouldn't say as
possible.
many, you don't want,
No, but have it
a
like this
wider,
so that people can.
And make sure there's consistency, and like Lori would be the consistent go-between from the committee to the CPAC.
Yeah, we gotta figure out those protocols.
Even if people
Yeah.
have it.
But yes, absolutely. So we're gonna take your name.
Thank you. Oh, she'll. All right. Anything else? I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
A second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Modell, aye.
Leroy.
Mustafi, aye?
Out before 10 people.
Very good.
Good.
Nice work.
I love it.